Big sales. We appreciate each and every single one of you picking us to come here each and every single day because of the options that you have out there. And I say this, and I will continue to say this each and every single day. We thank you a lot, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that and how you guys come here each and every single day. Today marks really kind of the first day of the 2024 start of the season, does it not? It kind of starts it off for us here, right? This is when it really kind of you're moving full throttle, right? For 2024. Starts today. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'll be sitting here thinking to myself here, okay, I'm on the eve of my birthday. Don't just ask me what it's like to, you're floating around 60 years old now, and you're like, what are you thinking at? And I'm like, man, I'll tell you what, I'm very, I don't know how I'm looking forward to the birthday tomorrow, but we shall see how I'm looking forward to, how who tunes in on my birthday tomorrow as well. Okay, because should be interesting. We got Ice Cube tomorrow, by the way, on my birthday. Just so you know, Ice Cube's coming aboard on my birthday tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, and he's going to wish me happy birthday. So we've been fortunate enough over the years to get some great friends, so we look forward to that. I got to start this thing out here, and I was listening to the Sports Take guys, Tone and Rob, talking. And then I was listening to the radio guys on IP and The Fanatic and reading columns. And then I was watching national shows. Do you know what the conversation is about the Philadelphia Eagles right now? Do you know what the conversation is? It's not if you're going to win a Super Bowl. It's if you're going to win a playoff game. Look at how far that has dropped. You went from conversation just a month and a half ago on could this team win another opportunity at a Super Bowl like 17 to will you win a playoff game and who matches up best for that win? That's incredible how far this thing has fallen off the cliff. I was listening to Sirianni today on WIP. He's cringy at the mic. He's just cringy. He says some of the stupidest shit. He's just cringy. I mean, I don't know if they're feeding him this, if it's a script. I don't know if there's a screenplay writer that the Eagles have. It just seems stupid how he answers some of these questions. He's cringy at the microphone. And I'm going to hit on all these topics he had. They asked him the question about, have you had a conversation with AJ? Well, obviously, the Eagle organization had a problem with AJ not talking to the media. You know why they had a problem? Because he was calling them out without saying anything. He was calling the coaching staff out without saying anything. That is how anal the Philadelphia Eagle front office and coaching staff is, and paranoid. This is paranoia. They're paranoid. Hey, Big, they're paranoid. When you're paranoid like that, you're soft mentally. They are absolutely paranoid on what you think of them. Most great coaches and most great organizations, they tell you what it is. without saying anything, and they continually feed you the same bullshit each and every single day. Belichick's been 20 years of feeding you shit. 20 years. He don't give a shit. And I agree with Tone. Bill Belichick doesn't give a shit if he's getting fired or not. Nothing's going to change his resume. Nothing. You can do nothing to Bill Belichick's resume. He could lose for the next 15 years. 6 Super Bowl wins, most playoff victories of all time. He's one of the winningest coaches of all time. He drafted the GOAT, and he coached the GOAT on defense. End of story. End of story. No matter what you try to do, people trying to rip down Nick Saban a little bit. Well, you haven't won a national title in 3 years. Really? What is it for Belichick? Belichick hasn't won a Super Bowl in 5 years. You know what some of you have done to Belichick? You have lowered it to say, well, he hasn't really had a lot of winning in the last 5 years. If you don't win the Super Bowl, who cares if you're 12-5? What's the point if you're 12-5 or 5-12? What's the point? What's the point if you're 5-12 or 12-5 if you're not hoisting the Lombardi Trophy? What's the point? What's the point? Senor goes, then why fire Bill at all? Sometimes you need a new look. I happen to agree with Bill Walsh. I think coaches wear their welcome out after 10 years. I think after 10 years, it's time to move on, especially if you're not going anywhere. I think the locker room and sometimes the organization go stale. I absolutely think that. 10 years to me, like Walsh says, I think that's the limit that you could be focused, especially when you're a winning franchise like the 49ers were. Okay? Hey, who cares? I want to get to the topics. By the way, our friend Tone in the segment will be with us at 3:30. Philly 500 at 4:30. Fans' perspective. We'll get his thoughts. Does a great podcast that'll be with us at 4:30. Don't forget, like I said, tomorrow at 4:30, Ice Cube's going to join us. So let's get to the topic here. That interview today wasn't really a press conference. That interview today he did on WIP, Nick Sirianni. He was asked all questions about his job. I was actually shocked that they went there. And I'm wondering if the organization is allowing that. I'm wondering if the organization is beginning to plant the seeds to distance themselves from Nick. We're going to get to that here in a minute. But that'll be a topic here in a second. Hollywood, it is soft radio because that's the flagship of the Eagles. However, I thought they went down some lanes that I was kind of shocked they did. And I'm glad they did. Okay? Who has frustrated you more this year? When it concerns the Eagles, the offense, Nick Sirianni, or the defense? Did you catch the other coaches' press conferences? They sound like soft, analytical, robotic punks. Did you catch their other coaches? I did. I did. Marshall, I did. It sounds like prepared comments. The Eagle PR department feeds the local guys shit. They give them nothing. And they report more on the national guys because it's more important for Bob Lang and the PR department with the Eagles to have national perspective on how you look at the Eagles than the local guys because they control the local guys. It's very evident. Just in the coverage. However, no. I'm not gonna throw shade on the people that cover the Eagles. I'm gonna throw shade on the Eagles themselves and the PR department, because what they do is they control the local guys by fear. Okay? By fear. Unless they're given the direction where to go. And today I kind of thought I saw a little bit of that. Okay? I do want to ask you, though, what's frustrated you the most? Offense, Sirianni, or defense? Whew. Is that a tough question? The offense has been very frustrating. You know why it's been frustrating? Because it's the same shit I hear every day from Tone, Rob, local media people. What's happening here? It's the same people. It's the same comments. It's like Groundhog Day. Every Monday, it's Groundhog Day in Philly. Why is it not looking like that? You want to hear something? You were more effective last year in your passing game with less passing yards than you were this year. Do you know that? Do you know last year you were more effective in your passing game than this year? And you're going to have everyone have career years this year. You were more worried about putting numbers up and the illusion of putting numbers up than you were about actually winning ball games. There lies the difference between a coordinator and an OC who wants to win games and championships. There lies the difference. The offense is frustrating because you know why? Is this fair? Last year's offense was a championship offense. This year's offense is not a championship offense, and you're going to have better numbers than any offense in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles this year. How's that possible? Last year was a championship offense. This year it's not. It's not. You put Jalen Hurts in more positions to fail this year, and that's why the turnovers are high, is because you put him in higher risk plays than you did a year ago. Is that fair also? Jalen Hurts and his turnovers are a result of the inability to make the right play with situational play calling. That's why the offense stumbles the way it does. Because they're not quality play calling. It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook. No, I'm not blaming Jalen. He's a byproduct of the failure and turnovers. Just like Josh Allen was a byproduct of failure in the turnovers with Ken Dorsey. Don't you see it? When you have people that have a feel for the game, your offense is going to run smoother because you know why? You've got a proactive thinking, offensive-minded guy who's not just looking at the playbook. Here's Brian Johnson's problem. Brian Johnson looks at the current play. Shane Steichen looks at the play 5 plays from now. The play he calls now will affect the play he's going to call 5 plays from now. That's called being an offensive coordinator, an innovator. Every play you run sets up the next play after that. It's a chain reaction. You got a coordinator, and really on both sides of the ball, that call games like this. Let's run a 43 with a twist. Not thinking that if you're 3rd and 9, you don't want to be in that position because you're the worst third down defense in the league. They never put a priority on winning first down on offense and first down on defense, thinking about how third down would look on both sides of the ball like they did a year ago. They were smarter last year. Hence the coordinators getting head coaching jobs. You've got people in that building that are not freaking qualified. How could you put coordinators in a position, especially on the offensive side, that's not qualified when you're this close to winning a Super Bowl? Do you know what you've done to your defense? The offense has destroyed the defense. The offense had to carry this football team for 9 weeks before that apple got ripe. They couldn't do it. And basically, you Chip Kelly'd them. It's funny. I bring Chip Kelly up because now we go to Sirianni here. Chip Kelly and Sirianni have a lot more in common than Sirianni and Doug Pederson. There's a lot more similarities. The bullshit press conferences, the lying, the weird, like uncomfortable pressers. He's just weird. He backtracks. He apologizes 5 days later. He doesn't criticize anybody. Nick Sirianni's soft. Dude, if you got a football player on your team that's not getting it done, call him out on it. He's a big boy. He makes $25 million. If A.J. Brown's being an asshole, call him out on it. Don't put your arms around him. Hey, yeah, can you see Mike Tomlin putting your arms around A.J. Brown? I doubt it. But Mike Tomlin did that from day one. And people go like this, he won a Super Bowl, Sills, and he's got a ton of equity. He did that shit from day one. Dude, you think Mike Tomlin's a different coach today than he was the first game he coached? I do not. I do not. I don't think Belichick's any different. Maybe nuances in how to deal with players. Dude, Sirianni, man, like today, listening to him talk in his interview, his weekly interview thing, there's no question. And you know what? I would beg to ask this question. Do the WIP guys have to submit their questions and what they're going to ask Doug or Nick? It sure seems it. I'm gonna make. I have no insight on this. Just my years being in this business. It sure looks like the morning guys have pre-written questions to ask Nick Sirianni. Comes from the PR guy. I bet you they have to submit it. There's no way in the world that organization and the PR department, the way that they care about how you look at them, don't know what the questions are going to be asked so he could prepare for an answer. There's no way. They're too. And here's what I say. You know why I say that? Because the rambling answers he gives sound like something off a script. I'm listening to that. I'm going, they pre-prepared the questions for Nick. And that's why Nick's got those thought out questions like that. It's not really an interview. Sirianni's Chip Kelly with better manners. Correct. That's right, Marshall. He's got better bedside manner. But he's Chip Kelly. Okay, he's Chip Kelly. Shit, Rich Kotite had a winning record. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Rich Kotite have a winning record too in Philly? Right? Those questions sound pre-prepped. Just it makes no sense. And I'm asking the question, who has frustrated you more this year, the offense, Sirianni? Let's get to the defense. I mean, what are they doing with Sirianni? Now going to Matt Patricia. It's worse. Eagles need to put Howie back in the closet and trade for Belichick. That never happened, Latino. You're making it sound like they would do the right thing. Always come from this angle. They'll do the right thing that's in their best interest. Bill Belichick is not in their best interest. Anybody like those guys like Tomlin or Belichick or anyone with that kind of credibility would never be considered. They would never be considered. It's not in the DNA of that organization to hire people who push back. You fired a guy who pushed back, who actually won you something. You fired him. Dude, when I first started talking to Eagle fans and the NFL, and most notably to Eagle fans, I never realized how important that firing of Doug Pederson is. Because now it means that you're capable, like Jerry Jones is, of doing anything, no matter what the circumstances is. Do you understand something? Jerry Jones fired a coach who had just won him back-to-back Super Bowls. So you knew right then and there that Jones was capable of anything. And then 5 years later, the organization was not anywhere near the same. I think the Philadelphia Eagles last year took advantage of a very down NFC, playing the 31st worst schedule in the league with a very good roster, and it really made everyone in the organization feel good about themselves and the owner. So much so, they wanted more power and control and direction and responsibility in the direction of the offense. Quite frankly, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie and Nick got what they wanted offensively. The numbers are all up, but at the expense of the defense. They focused so much on one side of the ball, and they got it wrong because of the turnovers, putting Hurts in a poor position, not having a qualified play caller. They screwed the offense up actually more than they did the defense. Did anybody actually think that defense was going to be great with trash can linebackers? Did you actually think you were going to coach guys who were cut into being Lawrence Taylor or Ray Lewis? Did you actually think that? You were idiots when you were fighting me on that. The Terrell Edmonds of the world. Hey, I'll say this to you also. The defense, not only was it a poor move and not bringing Edwards back, it affected the entire linebacker room. The entire linebacker room was affected with not bringing Edwards back. And here, TJ Edwards, as he is as important. How many people would go like this? Let's do this. How many people think that TJ Edwards is a Warner or a Roquan Smith in Baltimore? How many people think TJ Edwards is that player? How many people think that? And by the way, look at the assholes in here trying to pretend that Edwards wasn't a factor in the number 2 defense last year in National Football League. Lying again. Blinded by the truth. That guy's going to have 500 tackles in 3 years of play. Chicago's playing better. No way? Well, let's ask the question here on this one then. Do you think the importance of TJ Edwards in the linebacking room was just as important as Warner or Roquan Smith? Isn't it funny? You take him out of the lineup, your linebacker core is garbage. Garbage. There's not one redeeming linebacker on your roster. He may not be Roquan Smith and Warner in San Francisco, but you know what he is? His importance in the lineup was just as important as those guys in their lineups. It affected the entire linebacking room. And you know why some of you will fight me in this? It's because I told you Nakobe Dean was garbage. He was going to be garbage because the Eagles turned him into a garbage man when they didn't have to. This is what happens when you rush development. You ruin a player too. Good organizations can ruin a player by putting him in poor positions to succeed. Okay? Nakobe Dean will never fulfill his destiny in Philadelphia, ever. You know why? There's one thing that is evident. And all of the scouting people said this about him. You know what it is? He's made of paper mache. He is not reliable. Durability has a lot to do with availability in your evaluation as an NFL player also. Then you go to the talent if the kid can play. It affected the entire linebacking room. And shit, get this. How many people think that Kaiser White sucked? You don't have a player on your team as good as him. You couldn't even replace the replaceable. Think about that. A guy you can replace, you couldn't. The defense became so basic that everyone was sitting at their home eating crackers and dip and calling the plays that they were going to run at offenses. Josh Allen embarrassed you on national television. He embarrassed you. Who had the call that night of that Buffalo Bills game? Who had the call? Remember what he would do? I think, was it Tony Romo? Was it Romo that had the call that night? All Allen would do is put a guy in motion. Safety would stop at the halfway point. He wouldn't go because playing zone. Allen knew where to go with the ball the whole time. Shit, that Eagle game did more for Josh Allen maybe than any game over this last 4-game stretch to get his shit right. He was sensational in that game. Josh Allen was sensational. It's sensational. I mean, so who are you more frustrated with? God, all three are horrible. Get this. Here's the problem with the offense. Why'd you fuck with it? Why did you mess with it? Think about this. When you knew you had things working in the right direction, why would you downgrade it? You downgraded a quarterback coach who's in his first year. You downgraded a coordinator in his first year. I mean, everyone around Hurts is an amateur, including the head coach. You gave him the worst coaching he's probably had in the last 5 years. He had better coaching at Alabama. Okay? And as for the head coach, I don't trust him. I don't believe him. I think he's a bull-faced liar. I think he's Chip Kelly. And, but here, I'll tell you what I think he is. He's Chip Kelly, but he's more of a con artist. Most coaches are con artists. He's this guy here, man. He'll look you right in the face and lie to your face and not have any problem with it because he's lying for the coaches. He's lying for his coaches and he's lying for his GM and most likely his owner. The guy's untrustworthy. We're going to get to a topic here on that with the front office and Sirianni here in a minute. Nick Sirianni's untrustworthy right now. He's got to go and talk to AJ about what? Sending a poor message that AJ may be sending out smoke signals that the coaches suck. Gee, dude, we already know that. But the Eagles are so in a panic right now in how you look at their coaches and organization that they're doing everything they can in damage control now to try to make it look not that bad. Dude, you don't have to look any further than listening to the coaches and the players talking after games. I mean, I've seen this game a billion times. I know what they're doing. You refuse to see what they're doing. You have so much love for this team. Granted, and I think it's great. But don't be blinded with your passion and not seeing what they're trying to do by pulling the wool over your eyes. I mean, everybody knows what's going on here. You're in a funk? What gave that away, Nick? Coaches don't talk like we're in a funk. Coaches talk like this. We'll get this right. You don't talk about where you are. You talk about where you're going. See, the Eagles and the coaches and the organizations in the present, they're not looking. You know why they're going to get beat in the postseason? Because they don't believe they're a postseason team. They're in the moment right now. They're in the moment. They talk like they're in the moment. It's not hard to see unless you're blinded. Or unless you are some people who get mad at messengers for pointing it out. How do you stop coaches from leaving? Michael, why would you? The sign of a great organization is that you not only develop your players, but you develop your coaches. How proud do you think Tony Dungy is that Mike Tomlin, Raheem Morris, Lovie Smith, Herm Edwards all became coaches off of his Tampa staff? How proud do you think he was? That all those guys went on to get head coaching jobs. And he developed all of them. I would never hold anybody back who worked with me because I was too selfish of a fact that I needed to keep my guys. I want my guys to elevate. Dude, if you don't have people coming after your assistant coaches when you're winning, you're not really winning. Okay? I don't know who to pick. Offense, Sirianni, defense has been more frustrating. Because Sirianni's a pawn in this. I'm going to say the offense. Because you didn't need to do anything to it. Shit, if you hired a coordinator who had the same kind of experience that Shane Steichen did, you'd probably be better off. You're going to have career numbers, and you're going to have an absolute meltdown. Hey, by the way, I got a message for you from the Cowboys. I got a text message from Stephen Jones, who's been on the program. He wanted to thank Eagle fans and the Philadelphia Eagles because he knows that they watch the show. thank you very much for losing the game against the Cardinals. He wanted it known and wanted to thank you for losing the Cardinal game. When they looked up, they couldn't believe it. It was a gift from the heavens. So congratulations. Not even the Cowboys believed you'd lose to the Cardinals. And they just want to thank you. Wow. You become a laughingstock in the league. You've become a laughingstock because of your coach. And get this, I don't really blame Nick for that. I blame the organization for their meddling and their control and their power grubbing and how they want to have so much power over people. What an uncomfortable situation to be involved in, where you have everyone controlling every move you make as a coach, and you have no autonomy. You really think that Nick Sirianni made that call to pull Sean Desai off of being a DC? Jesus criminy. If you believe that, you're all idiots. Hey, who do you think fired Doug Pederson? Howie Roseman didn't fire him. The owner did. You're not going to do anything without that owner signing off on it. He makes those decisions. He'll get his intel guys, analytics. To me, they're intel now. You know what I think that analytics crew is with the Eagles? I think they're internal spies for the front office. They're more spies. Judases. Who do you think the front office reveres more? The coaching staff or the analytics department that's been there for 16, 17 years? Almost all of them. Dan, do you think run defense will get better once Cunningham comes back? He's been our Edwards in a sense. He has. I'm going to give you a little bit of a statistic that Butch Davis and Dave Wannstedt and Jimmy Johnson gave me when they were running the Dallas Cowboys when they won those 3 titles in 5 years. This is what they said. One year they backed off of practice and the yards per carry went up. The next year they went back to having physical practices, 1 a week, especially as it got closer to game time. They saw the run per carry come back down again. Now here's the difference. You have to have young players and depth. Remember, there wasn't a salary cap then, so you could stockpile a shitload of guys, okay, and have great depth and keep those guys there for 4 years. Guys weren't turning over all that much. So there wasn't really a cap, and you had depth. That football team was loaded with all kinds of depth on it. And so they were able, and they were the youngest team in the league when they won those Super Bowls. So you afforded yourself the ability to do that. Now with the cap, it's a revolving door. The problem with the Eagles this year has been depth. Get this. This is what Howie did to the defense at the expense of the offense so the owner could get what he wanted in optics. Okay? You have no depth on defense, and you have limited talent in key positions. End of story. End of story. And you don't have coaches good enough to coach them. Facts. Worst defense in pro football resides in Philly. Worst. Are you beating the Giants? Boy. All right, let's get to the other topic here. How soon will it be that the Eagles will start distancing themselves from Nick Sirianni. Have the Eagle players and front office lost confidence in Sirianni yet? Have they? And by the way, the public comments don't matter. The actions of the players and ownership do. And the front office. How quick before you see Howie and Jeffrey distance themselves from Nick? You know, I was talking about with Angelo yesterday whether or not they were coaching for their lives, that coaching staff and Nick, these next two games. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know, but I'll say this. These two games could dictate whether or not that process begins. Because what I heard on that interview today with Nick Sirianni and the WIP guys made me think some of the questions that were being asked were fed to them. Were fed to them. Will these two games dictate the confidence level in Nick? He was asked the question if he thought about, I couldn't believe this question that was asked to him. Are you worried about being on the, I'm paraphrasing here, are you worried about being on the hot seat? How could a coach who a couple months ago, weeks ago even, and some of you in here were telling me is the greatest coach on the planet, already have conversation in Philadelphia where he's on the hot seat? Great coaches don't come off a Super Bowl and are on a hot seat. You know what kind of coaches do? Coaches with no power in the locker room. I mean, get this. Doug Pederson had would we not agree? Don't correct me if I'm wrong. At the end, Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman had an adversarial relationship, which you could make the argument maybe could have led to the fact that those guys wanted to part ways because, hey, it's in the owner's right to want to stick with the GM or a coach. Totally in the right to do that. And so Jeffrey Lurie stuck with Howie. But okay, but was that not they had a poor relationship at the end, don't you think? Nick Sirianni doesn't have a poor relationship with Howie Roseman right now. And now they're starting to talk, and you're hearing the whispers like you did with the Wentz whispers. This is so creepy, similar to how, Wentz is a locker room cancer. And I'll tell you one thing is fact. You want to start smearing a player or a coach, Philly's the place to do it. You start getting these whispers with no sources with their names behind it. Is Sirianni in the hot seat? Guys asking questions. 11 months ago, he's in the Super Bowl. Now he's on the hot seat? Well, who told him to say that? You don't understand. When you have the rights for a broadcasting of a professional sports team, the organizations are so anal about what you say. Do you know why that I wasn't in San Diego any longer doing and having executives on? 2 days earlier, they said they were going to have executives on my show. And do you know why I was critical of the Padres? Because I said, Padres are the worst organization since 1969 in the National League. And that's how I did it. They have been. They had me taken off. They just took a guy off in Coach Quintero, who was doing 9 shares. Number one in the market, 12 plus. Padres wanted him off because he was critical of Bob Melvin being let go. So when you say those things, organizations, okay, organizations, they come to you and go, that's not where we want to go. Okay? Look at this guy, 49er. Yeah, and then 2 days later, I was hired in Miami. Hey, 49er, 2 days later, I was hired in Miami. It was a BS story. The Bucs wanted me out. I was hired 2 days later. How could that be? And by the way, I was hired by the guy who runs the station in Philly. 2 days later, I was in a bigger market replacing Sid Rosenberg, who's now on WABC mornings. How's that possible if it was true? How's that possible? Just saying. How long is it before the Eagles distance themselves? How long? Sales, Howie reaps what he sows. Yes, men are not empowered. That's right. To make changes. You said it yourself. Nick is the face that Howie wanted. Correct. That's right. Okay? Do you believe everything the media tells you? Hey, my friends, thank you. Don't worry about that. That guy's part of my business. Okay? It's part of my business. They're the people that in my business. So don't worry about it. There's thousands of these guys. Most of the viewers and listeners in my career have been 100% supportive. It's the people in the business. Don't worry about it. Big Marshall, you think that's already started? Okay? You think that's already started? Let's do this. Can Nick save this? Oh, no, I know formally. It's all good. Can Nick save this? How about this? Can Nick save his job? You think this ship has sailed? Let me ask you this. What do you think has been more exposed in the last month? Sirianni or the team? What's been more exposed? Sirianni or the team? The team? I think the team is a reflection of the coach panicking. Hey, dude, if you're on a ship and your captain doesn't know where land is, and he's got your life in his hands, does that concern you? It's so easy for us to sit here and go like this. Well, I'm not going to let Sirianni run me ashore. It doesn't matter if you think that you're not going to let him. Unless you jump off the boat, you're going to run ashore because he's in control of your career. No matter what you say or do, you have no say in it. You have no say in it. You have zero say in your direction of your career. Only your performance. But if they're constantly putting you in poor positions to win, there's no winning. Becomes frustrating and you quit quicker. In my humble opinion, Sirianni, we knew the limitations in the ceiling of the roster prior to the season. Funny, we did. I wonder if they did. Sirianni has underachieved in every way. The talent on the offense has produced in spite of the coaches. And like I said, I heard Tone and those guys talking. And I've been pointing this out with all these career years. Swift career year, 2,000-yard receivers again. The tight end needs to have a little bit more consistency in playing. The O-line has underachieved massively this year compared to a year ago. And hey, stop that. They're not the best O-line in football anymore. It's not true. I'm sick of saying that when I see 77 yards rushing versus the Cardinals. I'm not listening to that anymore. Stop lying. You're telling yourself something that's not true. You're having a hard time coming to the realization that old line is old. Juergens is not healthy enough. Kelsey's lost a step. And Lane is a battered offensive right tackle who's still one of the top 5 guys. But that guy has lost a lot this year. He's been beaten. And quite frankly, the organization didn't do that O-line any help by getting those shitty blocking backs back there. They did them no help. Guess what they did this year offensively? They relied on Jalen Hurts so much in the O-line so much, they thought that they could get away with incompetence in the coaching. They really were arrogant. Jalen Hurts is having career years on both ends, good and bad. Why is that? Incompetent play calling. Can you imagine if he had Joe Brady? Those turnovers would stop. Maybe the fumbles because he runs more. I don't know. He runs as much. No, but he would look more like Josh Allen does right now. I'll tell you what. One thing about Josh Allen playing the way he's playing, I'll take Josh Allen in his turnovers the way he's playing versus Jalen Hurts in his turnovers the way he's playing. I'll take that guy. Buffalo can win the AFC. The Eagles might not beat the Bucs. They might not beat the Bucs. Remember how I opened the show? Month and a half ago, you were talking about Super Bowl. Now you're talking about who gives us a better chance to win our opening game and potentially only one playoff game. The Bills, if they win on Sunday, they're the number 2 seed. And it could be Bills and Ravens for the AFC Championship. And I don't know. Lamar's 1-3 in the postseason. The other guy's got a great record, but I don't know. That'd be quite a matchup. And you're talking, hey, by the way, do you have anybody that could cover today? Hey, the Bucs are different today than when you played them because you're different too. You have nobody that could cover Mike Evans. Nobody. And I think the New Orleans Saints would be a tougher cover. Kamara, the other receivers they have, I don't know. You guys make everybody look good, including the Cardinals. Think about this. You make the Cardinals look like world beaters. The Cardinals. Alvin Kamara, who covers him? Is that Cunningham? You know, I went back and I watched the 22. You need the guys get a chance to do it and watch and take a look at Hassan Reddick's face coming over to the sidelines, throwing his helmet when he dropped into coverage 3 times in a series. He don't want to do it. He doesn't want to be in coverage like Hugh Douglas didn't. Why are you doing that? Get this, you got players now that are being put in positions that they don't want to be. That's why you're getting lackadaisical ever. You know why? When you play defense, you have to have playing defense is an attitude. It's not a position. And you have got to have a mentality that you, every time you step on the field, are going to knock someone's dick into the hospital. Not put them on the sidelines. Take them out. Playing defense is an attitude. It is not a position. It's attitude. And the Eagle defense is soft because the approach is soft. You're basically putting Hassan Reddick in a gunfight with one bullet versus a guy with 6. He has no fighting chance. Let me think how they would think now. Because you've got to think like if you're going to, someone just asked the question, Sills, can this be fixed? Well, we've got to think like them, not us. Because most of you in here have common reason sense on what is wrong. Many of you, even the detractors that say stuff to me, even they know because they see it. Okay? They see it. Think like a nerd? Okay. Probably think like a CPA or an accountant. Okay? Can it be fixed? This is what I think they're thinking. And you tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think the analytics people, Howie and Jeffrey, Sirianni's not in those meetings anymore. I think they're holding closed door behind their back because that's who they are. Ask Doug. Ask anybody. That's who they are. Sean Desai decision tells you what they do. Remember something. Follow the actions, not the words. The words don't lead you to the truth. The actions do. So you got to think like them. I think, get this, there's so much back channeling right now. 2023 can't be fixed. I'm not sure they want to fix it. I wonder how close the situation came in 2017 when Wentz went down. Did they want to throw up the white flag? And Doug rescued him. That's what I question. With an organization that has a knee-jerk reaction the way they do and how they do business, you can't think they thought things were going to go the way it did in 17. After Wentz got hurt, how could they? They're nerds. How could they? They probably were like, oh my God, we lost our MVP. Doug looked at it like an opportunity. And there lies where Doug started getting equity with the owner. You can't think Howie Roseman, when Wentz went down at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, thought he was going to win a Super Bowl. How could he? What would lead him to that? I truly wonder how much faith they had in Pederson, Reich, and Foles. Come on, man. Every one of those guys except one were fired. They made a decision on Foles to trade him. Frank got a job, and Doug was fired. They did nothing to keep either guy. Let me just say this to you about Foles. I swear to you, I watched that game that day in New Orleans, And I remember telling the people that were watching the game with me, guy wins this game, I'm trading Wentz. I don't care what he does. I'm trading Wentz. I'm not getting rid of a guy who gets me to 2 NFC title games, wins a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP, and I'm not trading that. I am not only Sully did Nick rescue him, Nick and Doug rescued him, and they taking credit for it. Look at last year and how their road to the Super Bowl got there. They played a horrible, overrated Giants team. The quarterback got injured in the Niner game. They had no threat at all season long with that 31st worst schedule. They played really well against an outmanned Chiefs team and lost with the better roster. Think about that. You lost that whole season last year. Told us more than what people wanted to see it as. Okay? It was fool's gold. 70 sacks? Really? Right. The Eagles are back to earth. Back to earth. Played nobody. You know what? Here, and I'll say this to you. This year, they showed some really good guts by the players and some great heart. Because I can't dismiss this. You beat the Dolphins. You beat the Chiefs. You beat the Bills. You beat the Cowboys. You beat the Rams. You beat some good teams this year. But when you're a Super Bowl contending team, you've got to be trending in the right direction, not firing coordinators 3 weeks before the end of the year. Beat some good teams. I think it's because of Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been put in such a bad situation because they paid him that it is really evident when they paid him, the organization changed. Everything's changed since they paid him, protecting him, changing the offense and how, get this, you gave the guy $50 million and you hired a preschool teacher to coach him. I mean, don't you put the best people you can find to run your company? I mean, would Jeffrey Lurie hire the worst director, or no, the most inexperienced director to put a sitcom on? Would he hire an inferior guy who's never done it to make a movie? To run your company? To run your garage? It just doesn't make sense. But then it does if you think like them. What gives us the most control? Think about what they did fundamentally on how they've set this culture up that you guys call a great culture. The players could carry the culture. Get this. I have a theory also here, Tone, and everyone. We're going to talk with our friend Tone at the bottom. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to carry this culture thing, and I'm going to say this to you. The players were the culture, not the organization. But when the players found out who the coaches were, the culture changed. Am I wrong? The players changed the culture because they don't buy the coaches. And the organization and the media fed into that the Eagles have a great culture at the NovaCare. No, they had great quality players who were great leaders. And when those guys didn't buy in anymore, you think there's any coincidence that the culture is not where it was? in the last 5 years. I thought that culture hangs around all the time. Good cultures are there. Hey, get this. Baltimore, last year, Baltimore wasn't in a good place. Well, they're back to being where it is because they empower the players. They empower the coach. John Harbaugh has a lot of power and autonomy in that building. Baltimore is so well run. It is without a doubt. And they came through the whole debacle of Lamar not playing, all of that. They embraced him. They moved forward. And now he's an MVP. Dude, I do think Nick Sirianni's coaching for his job these next 2 games. It's going to be an indication of what direction they're going to want to go. Okay? Hurts' big issue is the inconsistency to make the throws with anticipation. Nasty brings a great point up. Why don't you just go back to the game? Nasty, why don't they just do this? Why don't you just go back to the game film and watch what you did last year and do that? Why can't you do that? Why can't you go back to last year? You're not doing any. Get this. It's not like they're doing that shit that they did a year ago. And the situational play calling again. Hurts going to AJ. The way in the targeting. You know that he is the most targeted wide receiver in the league? Do you know that? What do you think a defensive coordinator and the analytics department in those other organizations like New York this weekend? Do you know what they're saying? 32% of the time, they're going to go to AJ. And so guess what the Cardinals did? You only had 47 plays. 30% of the targets went to AJ. Hurts has got to make tougher throws. Turnovers. That's what creates turnovers. When you become predictable. People overthink this shit. It's fundamentally right. Get this. The numbers don't lie. Because those, in pro football, numbers are trends. You know, people go like this to me. Dan, the Eagles don't have an identity. Yes, they do. Their identity is inconsistency. You don't want to hear that. That's your identity. You know, they never really just built an identity. Yes, they did. You're heading into week 18. That identity building. Hey, get this. No disrespect, Rob. There's no switch to be turned on. This isn't the Lakers and Kobe. Okay? It's one thing to flip a switch. You got 5 guys and you got Kobe and Shaq. When you have the Eagle defense, there's no flipping a switch on that. That's not a flip of a switch thing. I mean, you're not flipping nothing. Shaq and Kobe? Yeah, okay. Phil? Okay, yeah, you got me. All right. Yeah, I believe they could do that. They did. Dude, you've got to think how they would think right now. I wonder if they've surrendered. And I mean Howie and Jeffrey Lurie. Have they surrendered the year already? Because the way they act now, Doug Pederson must have felt it too after Wentz went down. And Frank and Schwartz and Doug, they dug in and rescued him. And all of a sudden, they popped their heads up. Holy shit. Look at the job we're doing. Doug probably went, we? What did you do in this process? Except panic. Doug probably lost faith in that front office. No, not the owner. Probably in Howie, because I bet you anything, Howie did not believe. That's why he had to get rid of him. That's why it was important to get rid of him and sabotage him so he could take full credit for it. And now with the appearance you guys got last year, get this, that's more disappointing than the 2004 Super Bowl and the 80 Super Bowl loss. Because you know why? You were the better team. You were the better team, but you were the poorly coached team. And everything in that Super Bowl on the sidelines with Nick has shown its head now. The conservatism, the analytics, the non-belief. Jalen walking off the field going, hey, this is why we pay you. And this is why we believe in you. You should always believe in me. There's something on that tea leaf. I don't believe Jalen Hurts thinks that Nick Sirianni and that front office completely 100% believes in him. I don't. The play calling dictates that at times. I think they've lost trust in Jalen a little. And Jalen has lost trust in them. Am I wrong? Sure looks that way. You got guys shaking their heads. Okay? You got guys shaking their heads. And you got a quarterback who doesn't have leadership at the top. He's the only guy and the only adult on the sidelines. Man, Doug Pederson totally is responsible for that Super Bowl in 17. And as good a team as he built last year, with all that luck he had, because it's not expertise. He's not Eric DaCosta or Ozzie Newsome. Those guys do it every year. Okay? Let's be candid here. This year's been a train wreck. They do it every year. Every guy they bring in or every guy they draft. I mean, look at the people that they draft and look at the guys that they bring in. They don't miss on Jalen Reagor. They hit on Zay Flowers, who I didn't really think that much of at BC. I thought he was a nice player at BC. I didn't think he was this dude. All right, I got to take a time out here. Incredible. I wonder how much faith they had after Wentz went down, because I see a lot of the same. These guys act the same. It just looks the same. Hey, we really appreciate everybody coming aboard with us, our great friends at Hooters, man, with all the great specials that we have. We are so proud to have them part of the Dan Sileo Show. Do me a favor, go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com for any one of our great specials. Lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3 p.m. Boneless wings. Happy hour Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. 6 items, $6. Seafood Sundays, half price, snow crabs, buffalo shrimps. Military Mondays are always sensational. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. How about Tuesdays right now for wings? Buy 10 wings, get 10 boneless free. Also, right now, my friend Tone is sending out the code word that you're going to see throughout the 4-hour program. You send us back your information at dansilioshow@gmail.com, and you may hear your name called on a football Monday. So we give you that opportunity. All you do is also go for more information, go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. My friend Tone will join us at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then also Philly 500 will join us at 4:30 Eastern time. So please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
I had many of you telling me that I owed Jordan Davis an apology. He's Jordan Davis 2022 right now. He's a 2-down DT right now again. Facts. Sorry to inform you. He's still a 2-down DT. So all of you that were rushing to judgment because he got out to a good start, that's not the truth now. He's kind of who he is. Okay? He's a 2-down DT. Once again, overdrafted. Not saying he's not good. Want to clarify. And not saying he's not a first rounder. He's not the 13th pick. He's a nice fire plug. He's a good fire hydrant. Well, not the last month and a half he hasn't. You've been destroyed on the run. And has he started every game? Has he? He's a 2-down DT. Carter, I give the benefit. He's had a heck of a rookie season. Kind of who he is. Jordan Davis has started every game. He's back to Jordan Davis 22. 2-down D lineman. Very little pass rush. Last month and a half, he's MIA. He doesn't stink. He doesn't stink. It's not true. As a matter of fact, if I were going to make a comparison for him right now, I think he has the ability, as I said on draft day for him, that his ceiling would be Vince Wilfork. If I were you, I would take that as a compliment. Vince won 3 Super Bowls. Helped the run defense in New England. That's a compliment. But if you thought he was going to be Fletcher Cox, that wasn't happening. Now, the kid next to him, he's played more plays than any time probably in the last 4 years of his career. And it's affecting him, and you can see it. Not excuses. It's a learning process. playing in the NFL. Remember something. There's not 100 guys on scholarship like you have in college. There's 46 guys, 47 guys. Okay? I mean, you can't hide under your desk on game day. Fletcher Cox has played the best DT the last 2 years of any defensive tackle the Eagles have had. And I would want him back. And I would pay him $10 million to bring him back. I think he's solid, man. I think he's above solid. He's above solid. Look at Randy. What a dummy. He just gave up 221 yards to the Cardinals. Your run defense is atrocious. Here, see a guy like Randy? He doesn't see it. He doesn't want to see it. He thinks your run defense is better. Hey, you built up your numbers on shitty teams early in the year. And now when you're playing where you have to win games that matter in a stretch run, Randy, you're getting annihilated. And get this. You know what run defense is? Lining up and beating the guy in front of you. Lining up and just playing ball. Let's go play some ball. That's what run defense is. Hey, some Eagle fans in here embarrass you guys, but I know most of you know get this. I'll say this to you, man. Eagle fans have a great passion for the people that play in that gear, and they're going to go to the very edge and give you every single bit of runway. But when they see you're not that guy, dog, they're going to call you out on it. Get this. Eagle fans call people out more on that roster than the organization and the coaches do. When you got people in the stands screaming, run the ball, and they're not wrong, it's embarrassing. CD's better than AJ? Absolutely not. CD's having a really good year. They would have benefited in getting a running game, and that would have helped them if they would have got a better running game. I think Tony Pollard's a good player, but he's a number 2 at best. Okay? He's a 2 at best. Okay? Seals, who should be the Eagles' next coach? What guy would I think would be a perfect head coach? Who would I hire? That's a great question. I'll tell you what I would do. I would seriously consider Raheem Morris with the Rams and hire Frank Reich as my coordinator and let those guys fix both sides of the ball. Look at what Raheem's doing with the Rams. He's got Aaron Donald, nothing else. And that's going to be a tough out team. They got better by the end of the year. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been a head coach far too soon. I was very critical of him. Very critical. Stop with the Harbaughs. Jim Harbaugh would never take that job. You know why? There's too much bullshit. He'd be back to San Francisco with Trent Baalke again. There'd be too much internal bullshit that would go on. Jim Harbaugh would never take that job. You couldn't afford him in the first place. And I mean by afford him, not money, in giving up power. You see, you got to remember something about Jeffrey Lurie. He won't mind paying for a coach, but he ain't going to pay by surrendering power. He'd rather give you the paycheck, keep the power. You see, you got to remember, money to those guys they'll just take it out on you by raising ticket prices. They're not going to pay anything. What do you think? Jeffrey Lurie's going to pay Jalen Hurts? You're paying. You wait till the season's over and you see those increases in tickets because March 17th, that salary kicks in. He ain't paying it. Remember this, man. First and always start with power and money in the league. You know, I wonder, when Wentz went down, did that front office start panicking and dug in? Because right now, I wonder if they're solidly behind Sirianni when you make a move like Desai behind his back. Let's go to my guy, Tone.
What's good, my friend? How you feeling?
You know, Tone, I'll tell you again, one more time here with this. What's disappointing is that you guys have gone from talking about winning a Super Bowl, and I heard you earlier say it's Super Bowl or bust, to talking about a matchup that you could win in the opening round that gives you the best chance so that at least you can have a one-win playoff season to go into the offseason. So you've gone to all chips into, well, let's see if we can get a win in a month. I mean,
it's funny. It's funny how it's funny
sad.
it's funny and it's sad. You know, the same thing that you laugh at can also be something that you cry at. So, this team, how the mighty have fallen. We were talking about them being a Super Bowl contender all year, and then all of a sudden, we run up against the Niners, the Cowboys, and then we drop it against the Seahawks and drop the Cardinals game. And how else are we supposed to look at this team, right? You know, if we're looking at them fairly on a week-to-week basis, I mean, who's still looking at the Philadelphia Eagles as a Super Bowl or one of the prime Super Bowl contenders? I'm not. And if anybody is, I mean, that's just blind faith at that point, you know, and I can't argue with those kind of people. This team has underachieved all across the board. The quarterback is underachieved. The head coach is underachieved. The coordinators have underachieved. The defense is underachieved. The offense as a whole is underachieved. The front office is underachieved. There's so much blame to go around for why the Philadelphia Eagles are where they are. I can't sit here and say with a straight face and still maintain some level of credibility and say this Philadelphia Eagles team is poised and ready to make a deep playoff run. Based off how they're playing, they're not poised to do anything. But again, that doesn't mean my expectations change, right? I'm all about Super Bowls. I don't care about division titles. I don't care about conference titles. I don't care about none of that. I'm all about Super Bowls. Did you win the big one? And I'm sure these organizations, they have their own barometers of how they grade success. But last time I checked, the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that cares about being relevant and winning. And so far, they've only checked one of those boxes, and it's being relevant. I don't see this team winning the big game this year. But again, my expectations year to year don't change because of that. But I'm going to continue to evaluate them fairly and honestly. And right now, honestly, they're not one of the prime contenders for a Super Bowl this year. There's nothing they can do today. There's nothing they can do this coming Sunday to change my mind. They are strictly on a week-to-week basis, especially once the playoffs start. There's nothing they can do. They've already missed their opportunities to change other people's minds. The only way they can prove it or change the narrative is going to the playoffs and go 1-0 every week. And I don't know how likely that is the deeper they go.
You think Howie and Jeffrey Lurie have already surrendered the 2023 season and want this thing to end so that they can make the changes they feel needed?
That's a really good question, because guys like that, they always thinking 2, 3, 4 years ahead, right? That's a really good question. I don't think anyone's posed that lately, or if at all. If I had to give you an answer, based on how that defense is playing, I think they have pulled the plug. It's either you pull the plug or you don't. I think they have pulled the plug, and mainly because of the defense. Mainly because of the defense.
Or their actions.
And their actions, right? Demoting Desai and
keeping them in the building.
Keeping them in the building.
Those weirdo press conferences.
So if I had to answer, did Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie pull the plug on this season thus far? I want to say yeah. And I think they pulled it not just because of the ass whooping that they took against the Niners and the Cowboys. When they saw that Seahawks game and that Cardinals game, I think they said to themselves, there's no way we're in the upper echelon. There's no way we can even have those conversations anymore.
You know what? I want to show you something here. Let me show you what the national media. I saw this today, and I have my Power 10 quarterbacks and teams. I want to show you this. So Colin Cowherd has the most watched sports show outside of Pat McAfee and the most listened to sports radio show in the country. And I want to show you, I want to read this to you.
Mm-hmm.
This is his top 10 teams. Ravens 1, Niners 2, Bills 3, Lions 4, Cowboys 5, Rams 6, Browns 7, Chiefs 8, Texans 9, Dolphins 10. The national guys don't even think the Eagles are a top 10 team right now.
Exactly. And, the Eagles have been flirting in his top 5, top 3
all year. That's the first time he's not been in the top 10. They fell from 1 out.
Yeah, they were going back and forth between 1, 2, 3, 3, 2.
They were
4,
hanging around
1.
in 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, these past 3 or 4 weeks, they've fallen out of favor. And can you blame people?
No.
You can't blame people.
No.
Like, how can I justify? How can I credibly
you can't
talk
lose to
about
a
this
3-win team in a stretch run?
You can't lose to a 3-win team that you're more talented than, top to bottom. No matter how you feel about the Eagles defense, that defense is more talented than that Cardinals defense. And
even in the shape it's in,
even in the shape it's in, and you let that team beat you 35-31. Your defense didn't force a single punt, and we're supposed to believe that they're going to go into the playoffs and make some noise
or flip the switch.
All right, okay.
Yeah, how about this? I want you to give me a history lesson and take me back, because the actions of Jesus, man, you just went to a Super Bowl, and the actions of the organization and how quick you have a knee-jerk reaction lends me to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2017, when Wentz went down at the Coliseum against the Rams,
right?
Tone, how much faith do you think Howie and the owner had that they were going to win a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback and Doug, Frank, and Jim? Do you really believe that they dug in and really bought in the next guy up mentality when they're not football people? They act like football people. Look at their actions now, coming off a Super Bowl win. A Super Bowl appearance, starting 10-1. They panicked being 10-3.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that they had a level head when Wentz went down?
No, there's no way they did. To your point, and when I try to think about it in hindsight and try to be as realistic about it, especially when I think about who they've been as of late, there's no way they were calm, cool, and collected when Wentz went down. As a matter of fact,
they're not now.
Exactly. And also, he got hurt well after the trade deadline, so it was no move they could make. So it was almost as if they accepted their fate regardless of what would happen, right? You lose your starting quarterback, you're not supposed to win anything. I mean, that's typically how it's supposed to go, right?
Do you still say sometimes when you're watching things or sitting there with your dad, I can't believe we won it?
Oh, all the time.
Tone.
All the time.
They did not buy into it until they won the NFC title game.
Yeah, I don't think it's so funny you say that. because I don't really think because because they beat the Falcons 15-10. They
They
beat
may
them.
not have bought that
They might they didn't buy that
because they knew they were playing Brady and Belichick.
exactly. They beat the Falcons 15-10. There's
That game
there's
was
no
so
way they
coached.
were.
How
Yeah,
about this, Tone?
yes. That game was all
That
about
game
coaching.
was so coached,
And
no way on how any game in the last 3 years has been coached.
yes,
It has. That is just the way Doug coached that game. I have never seen an Eagle game coached like that to this day in the last 3 years.
and on top of that, in that game they got a couple lucky bounces. But also that game against Atlanta, the defense stood tall in the red zone, and they managed to prevent Julio from catching the game-winning touchdown, and that was the game. So they came up clutching that Falcons game. That Falcons game could have really went either way, if I'm being completely honest. But once they got past that Falcons game and they got to the Minnesota game, I think a lot of people counted Philly out against Minnesota because Minnesota was hot, and a lot of people really didn't have faith in the whole Foles train. When he did what he did to Minnesota, I think that was when Howie and Laurie, all they could do was just say, look, whatever happens, happens. They had no choice but to have faith. They had no choice but to have faith in that moment. So
and then they wanted to grab the credit after.
Because in reality,
like they're doing now.
Yeah. Now I in fairness, I do give them credit for how they invested in the running back position at that time. And the way they invested
were those trades or were those pickups?
LeGarrette Blount was an off-season free agent signing, I believe, and Jay Ajayi was a trade deadline pickup. It's mid-season, and when they got him, he came out like gangbusters. He was one of their better running backs, and he was effective. They had a three-headed monster, and it worked perfectly. It's just so funny. Those 2 seasons in particular, the running back room and the linebacker room hasn't been as talented since then. Think about that.
Interesting.
Think about the Eagles running back room today and last year and the years prior, and think about 17 and the linebacker position as well. The linebacker position and the running back position hasn't been as talented, hasn't been that talented in a long time. Because they had Michael Kendricks, they had Nigel Bradham, they had Hicks, they had the D line had a lot of depth. They had
Chris Long was over
Chris
there.
Long, Benny Logan, Timmy Jerrigan, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Grant, all those guys in their prime. So they took advantage of they took advantage of a great opportunity, and Foles played beyond belief. But I don't think Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie were completely just all bought into the notion of Foles leading them on the playoff run. There's no way they could have. There's no way they could have been.
No way, because the way they behave now does not indicate that. They don't have the same poise and patience that you have in Pittsburgh or Baltimore.
I'm willing to argue if Wentz would have got hurt prior to the trade deadline, they would have made a move and brought somebody else in.
Oh, they totally would have.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, absolutely. Here's a question for you. Who has frustrated you more this year with the Eagles? The offense, Sirianni, or the defense?
I want to say Nick Sirianni's frustrated me more. He's been the bane of my existence over the season, because I truly believe that this offense has not evolved and taken things to the next level because of him. As the head coach, every head coach has a specialty, right? Offense or defense, right? Or even special teams.
He'll tell you this, though. All these guys are having career years.
Yeah, in spite of him. I mean, those guys look.
No, at the expense of turnovers.
Right. Yeah, that too. And the thing is, I always try to give Nick Sirianni the benefit of the doubt. Ever since we hired him, I've always tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I knew he wasn't a great interviewer. I've always tried to be as judicious as I could possibly be with him and give him a fair shake. But whenever things got tight or a little hot in the kitchen, whenever he had to, all right, time for me to step my weight up. What am I going to do? What's going to be my counterpunch? He has never fit the bill. whenever it was time for Doug to put up or shut up in a high pressure moment, he bunkered down, and they got back to the drawing board. When Wentz went down, Frank Reich and Doug Peterson and John DeFilippo got down to the drawing board, and they said, "Okay, this season we lost our guy, but this season ain't over, and we're talented, and we got the #1 seed. What are we going to do to maximize this situation? Okay, Nick, what do you do well? What do you want to do?" It took them a couple weeks because at first they was running the same offense, but then they realized, okay, what do you want to do, Nick? What do you want to do, Foles? Okay, I'm comfortable with these RPOs, right? I'm really good with that. I did those with Chip Kelly earlier on. I'm comfortable with that. They went back to the drawing board and put their coaching hat on. When the Eagles started going through their struggles this year, it was time for Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson to lock in and say, okay, we are struggling. There's a reason why we're not sustaining things. We got to go back to the drawing board and maybe simplify things.
Why don't they just look at last year's tape? Why try to reinvent the wheel when, I mean,
because people always feel the need to validate themselves.
That was successful. Here's a stat. I heard you bringing up stats about the guys. Do you know you're more proficient in your passing game last year than you are this year with career numbers this year?
Yes. You know,
he'll throw for less yards last year and be more effective in the passing game last year than this year.
Exactly.
Situational play calling.
And we talked about this, right? In the offseason, we said, look, when it comes to Jalen Hurts, people need to stop hanging themselves up on how many yards he throws for. That's not why he's there.
He was more effective throwing less passing yards.
Yeah.
Think of that.
Every quarterback has a style. Styles make fights. You know what I mean? So, you know, Muhammad Ali had one of the craziest jabs on the planet. You know what I'm saying? Like Mike Tyson, the haymaker, the hooks, like guys have styles, guys have things that part of their game, guys have parts of their game that lean on more than others. It's the nature of the game. No one plays the position the same. So knowing what I know about Jalen Hurts, I want to make sure I optimize his skill set, right? So if it's best for him to stay within the 450 to 500 attempt range on a given season, I'm going to keep him there because that's his sweet spot. That doesn't make him any less of a quarterback than anybody. That just means that's his sweet spot. And everyone has a sweet spot. Everyone has.
Think they tried covering. Tone, I think they tried covering his turnovers by more attempts. And they dug a hole. And they have not been able to get out of that hole. And that's why the most targeted player on the planet is Brown. And it became so predictable at the end because everyone knew where they were going that they tried covering the turnovers with more attempts.
And also they weren't creative enough.
What were they? They were a top 10 passing offense last year.
Yes, they were.
This year, they're around 16 or 17.
Correct.
And passing. Think of that. And he threw for less yards.
And less attempts.
And he was a better passer a year ago.
And a little bit less touchdown. I think last year he had 22 passing touchdowns.
22. And get this, he was better.
He was better. More efficient, more effective.
Second MVP.
But again, that's why I love what Baltimore's doing with Lamar Jackson. They don't care about his passing yards. They want to optimize his skill set.
He's a better player this year.
He's a better player that way. And I respect it. You know, people listen, if you want to debate who's the best quarterback and who could throw a football over the mountains, you can debate that all you want. I want the guy that's going to win the game and optimize his skill set and use his skill set the best of his ability. See, I'd much rather have a quarterback that knows how to use his skill set better than the other quarterback know how to use his. You know what I mean? I don't care what that looks like. His skill set versus his skill set. Who's going to maximize it more today? Right?
They limited his skill set this year in Philly.
And this year, by asking him to throw the ball more, because remember, prior to the season, man, you talked, and I kept saying, you know, I would love for him to throw the ball more, run less. And then we got to a point this year when we said, you and I were saying it. We said, you know what, we got it all wrong.
Remember Vermeil?
Let this kid be him.
On WIP going, why would you limit him? That's where I got it from. Dick Vermeil, prior to the season starting in September, went like this, Tone. I think all of you guys are crazy running him less. That's what he does. That's what makes him special. you limiting him that will not your offense will be affected by that. Dick Vermeil was spot on in September. He was spot on. And I went like this. Vermeil's right, man.
Right.
Why change this guy?
Yeah, and also what they look like a team right now that they don't know what side of the fence they want to play on. They don't know if they want to just go balls to the wall where Hurts' a skill set, or if they want to be this passing team that, you know, that passes, set up the run. They seem like a team or a coaching staff that's literally torn between game plans all the time. And you know,
Are you sure, or is it what to do?
Well, all the above,
Okay.
right? Like, yeah, I just believe that they look like a team that's torn between one or two styles of play. They don't know what they want to commit to, or they don't want to commit to what they're being told to commit to, or they're committing to what they don't want to really do and it's showing on the field. And however you want to slice it, I just see two competing thoughts and philosophies every week. And it's showing in the disjointed in how they play. It's showing in the turnovers. Jalen Hurts looks like he's second guessing out there more times than not. He just doesn't seem like he's playing instinctually as instinctually as he was last year.
It's a trust level.
I think the trust
is gone.
I think the trust is diminished. Me and Rob was talking about this earlier, right? When you lose the locker room, that begs the question: did you ever have it in the first place? And B, has it ever been done before? Have we ever seen someone who's lost the locker room and gotten it back? I don't know. You tell me.
I saw Sean McDermott do it this year.
Okay. That's a good pull.
Okay,
that's a good pull.
I saw him because that thing was on the rails. People were saying he ain't going to survive this. Remember Diggs and everybody, and he came out of that thing, and to me, I think he solidified his job even more so. Let me ask. It's funny you should say that because I brought something up earlier. And the media has, and this is a front office ego trip that they're always on, that they have this insane culture. Isn't it ironic that the players, last year and this year through 11 games, those guys were in a good place. They enjoyed showing up to work. But once they found out that coaching staff was not being genuine, they started lying. They didn't trust the game plan. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the conversations are now, Sirianni's lost the locker room. And to your point, what you made a couple minutes ago when you or Rob were talking, did they ever have the locker room? They were, once again, Tone, like I've been telling everyone for 2 years, Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman are benefactors of players that have built the culture themselves. There's no culture upstairs in the front office. The culture is the players. And when the players stop believing, that's when you get the chaos. Mm. And that's when, there's no coincidence.
So you think that's where we are right now?
What they were doing all the way until week 11 of this year, when they saw what these guys were trying to do, the knee-jerk reactions. It can't be a coincidence, Tone, that everything blew up and that so-called great culture that they've had in the building evaporated. Where did it go?
Now that's so interesting by you. The fact that this team, their culture was cultivated by the players.
The players.
Right. They see.
Not Howie.
Right? See, here's the thing, right? When they draft these guys, I'm sure they have an idea. Of course, I'm sure they say to themselves, okay, we want a guy that loves football, all that kind of stuff, whatever. He's going to commit. But other than that, when it comes to a culture and an expectation, that's set by the guys putting on the helmets and the shoulder pads.
Set by the group, not a guy.
Exactly. So when you draft BG, then Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, but also you can't forget the torch was passed down to those guys as well from guys like Jason Peters. Who else was in the building? Guys like Trent Cole who passed the torch down. Brian Dawkins, Lito Shepard, Sheldon Brown,
even Chris Long.
Hugh Douglas, Chris Long. See, if you notice over the past several years, they've had guys passing through this organization that are high character guys that really love the game and play it at a high level.
High commitment
guys. But now we see a team where the commitment is wavering. It's fleeting. and it's impacting the product we see on the field more than ever.
Wavering because they're not buying what they're selling them upstairs. I'm going to tell you again.
So are you saying, real quick, are you saying that
the organization takes credit for the culture that they have in the building, and it's nothing to do with them?
That's where I'm going. So you're saying the players at this point in time, the players looking at Nick Sirianni like, bro, you're just a face. Why am I even listening to you?
Right. No, here's what they've done. They've now set a new culture of non-belief. How do you go in 1 month from having this so-called tremendous culture to not having a culture of believing the coaches, and you're not believing and buying into the game plans, and you're hearing guys even making those innuendos, having to go to AJ and have some sort of powwow with him about who he's blaming on the coaches by not. I mean, those players are telling you they're the culture, the character in the building. Won all those games last year. They got to week 11 this year. And when they saw those coaches get exposed in the gauntlet, they're not buying them.
Okay. I believe you. Now, we talk a lot about. No, yeah, for sure. No, definitely. And, we talk a lot about player accountability as well. I know you started the show out yesterday saying, look, the players got to be accountable too for themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
So, although I agree with you unequivocally about the coaches and the front office and their shortcomings, I agree with you, right? What do you say to the notion that, okay, you may have lost belief in your coaches, but Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, all those leaders in the room, right? We can't lose belief amongst ourselves. Although we feel like we're not being put in the best position, I trust y'all. I play with y'all on a daily basis. AJ Brown, if I'm Jalen Hurts, AJ, I trust you. Smitty, I trust you. Goddard, Lane, Kelsey, blah, blah, blah. I trust y'all. And that, I think that part has run out. How much can you rely on just that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow me here. And
right.
Let me get to the conclusion here on this.
Right.
So Columbus sailed to the New World. He had a great crew. And as they were getting closer to trying to find the West Indies, which they never did, they found America, obviously, they started thinking about mutiny. And they were thinking about the mutiny because Columbus had their faith in their hands, their lives in their hands. They couldn't do anything about it. All they could do was row. They had no power of the direction of the ship. They had no power in any way whatsoever because there were captains and Columbus on the boat. When you have an NFL head coach that has your career in his hands and an organization that has your career in their hands, no matter what you do, and they keep putting you in a direction that has no direction, no matter what you do, when you line up, you're giving a half-ass effort. And you're going to give a non-full attentive effort because in your heart it's not going to work because you're a veteran pro and you know what works. So after 10 games, 7 games, 6 games, are you going to still walk through the fire for something like that will keep burning you?
And that's what we're experiencing at the 10-1, right? After 10-1, think that's what happened.
When they started walking through the fire, it was okay. They got through Buffalo. They got through Kansas City. But then when they walked into the fire against San Francisco, everyone got burned.
Badly.
And then what the catalyst has been is that those 2 games exposed the entire coaching staff and the direction of the ship to those players who made that culture. And then Seattle and Arizona, it finished the boat. And the faith, you have a mutiny.
Yeah, Seattle and Arizona.
There's a mutiny in the locker room right now.
Yeah, Seattle and Arizona basically just ran over a dead corpse. That's basically what they did. Seattle and Arizona. They ran over a dead corpse, grabbed someone for dear life.
That Arizona lost tone started in San Francisco's game.
I can't, I said this earlier, right? These players, because Rob brought up the notion that, look, Nick Sirianni, he can't keep riding on this whole players coach thing, right? He can't keep riding on that. The fact of the matter is, players, and you tell me if I'm wrong. And I've been listening a lot to you. I've been listening to a lot of other players in their press conferences, not even just the Eagles, but I really try to listen to the players' perspective, right? And what I get from players most of the time when I hear them speak, they don't care about being your friend. They don't care about you, putting your arm around them.
Help me win.
What they care about is, can you help me maximize my earning potential, and can you help me win games and be a better player? Those are the only things they care about. Can you help me make more money, and can you help me be a better player?
Third one. Ready? Give me a fair chance.
And can you give me a fair chance? Other than that, they don't care about being your friend. They don't care about what you say, and they don't care about none of that. So when it comes to Philadelphia Eagles, now that the magic has wore off with Nick Sirianni, now that they're seeing him for what he actually is, I don't think these players are looking at Nick Sirianni as if he can help them be better. And I think that's the part where he's lost with his team. He's lost their trust in their futures. And I think that's a terrible place to be. And I don't know if he can come back from that.
How about this, Tone? I don't need a coach at 14-3.
I need a coach at 3-14.
I need a coach in a 4-game losing streak.
Yes.
That can guide me through waters, because as in life, I'm going to go through more speed bumps than I am cruise through smooth sailing.
Yes.
Especially when we're talking about winning and anything in your life. More speed. I need a guy to guide me through rough times.
Sills, you know what my father always said to me? My father always said this to me, and it holds true. He said two things to me. A smart man learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. And he also said to me, never judge a man in times of peace.
Correct.
Always judge him in moments of chaos.
That's right.
Because who are you when the rainbow is shining and the butterflies are flying and it's a sunny day? Everyone is on their best behavior. But when it's a thunderstorm and you got a flat tire, and all of a sudden they talking about freezing rain and black ice, and it's jam packed on I-76. Who are you then? Who are you then? That's the person I want to know. And right now, Nick Sirianni is proving that he's not the person that we need in times of chaos.
How about this, Tone? It reminds me of Tiger in a way. And I'm going to let me make this.
Yeah, break that down.
Tiger painted this portrait of being this way he wanted the media to see him. And when Tiger was exposed for being this other person, the media felt betrayed. And they felt lied to. When I listened to guys like you and the people in Philly starting to I couldn't believe IP bringing it up, asking him about his job security, asking him about if he feels the hot seat. I was pretty shocked that the Eagles allowed that to go down that off ramp like that. Do you feel lied to that you now see a guy that you had complete faith in, and that, hey, Tone, I'll say it, guys like you and the other guy that does that show, the lawyer guy, you guys
Bill.
are going around talking about the guy
Bill
being the
Carulli,
best coach in the NFC. And again, when you're 10-1, it's hard to argue with what a guy when he has a record like that. It totally, it's on your side. I'm not calling you. I'm asking you, do you feel now a little betrayed that now that you're seeing in times of chaos and rough waters, do you feel a little bit betrayed that the guy that you thought was going to be the next great Eagle coach, you're looking at him more like Chip Kelly than you are like Doug Pederson?
Sills, can I be vulnerable with you for a moment?
Sure.
I've always had my questions about him.
Okay.
Always have.
Okay.
But I would say to myself, well, what right do I have to have questions about him? He wins. His first season, he got them to the playoffs. They came off a 4-11-1 season. They made it to a Super Bowl, whatever. Like, they're winning games. Why do I feel like there's something off still with him? You know what I mean? Why do I feel like, I don't know, if I trust his football genius or whatever. Like, I don't want this. I struggle sharing this because it's going to sound like I'm trying to change history, but I'm trying to be honest and transparent. There's always been a part of me that questioned Nick Sirianni. There always has been.
This is just, I'm going to tell you what happened.
Because again, I care about this point because I value
experience. That's all you're going through. I've experienced the bullshit artist coaches as a player and as a media guy for 32 years. And same with Seth and Angelo. We saw it from the beginning. You're brand new at it.
Because
you're going like this.
I value my credibility so much.
That guy, but he's 10-1.
Right. I value my credibility so much, so I don't want this to appear like I'm trying to shift the goalpost.
It's not.
Because
you think you're flip. Listen, this is a prime example of why guys like LJ don't get it. So, Tone, are you supposed to sit here today on January 2nd, maintain your same take of him being the best coach in the NFC today because you made a proclamation 3 months ago that he's the best coach in the NFL today? Or are you not supposed to go, players and coaches, they evolve or they don't get better?
Right.
This is what happened to Wentz.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like,
not a you thing. This is a performance sport.
But also, I felt the need to go, but I also felt the need to go above and beyond and defend him because I felt like he was getting unfairly criticized at one point. And the reason I felt like it was unfair is because they were winning. So again, right, I always looked at Nick Sirianni as a guy that they rally, they listen to him. He gets it, right? He gets it. I always felt like that.
I never believed that.
But when it came to the X's and O's and just the offensive creativity, I always questioned who would he be in moments of chaos? Who would he be when things weren't always going well? Who would he be when he had to go through a chess move with another opposing head coach and throw a counter punch? Who would he be? And again,
Senor,
I've always
like Senor says, hey, Tone, it's okay to be fooled.
And I don't like that feeling.
I know you don't.
I don't in my personal life. I don't like that feeling.
Because you get this. This is how you gauge your hey, the Eagles are your friend. They're your friend, Tone. They're one of your best friends. And you don't like to be fooled by your friends when you're picking your friends. Because you can pick your friends. You can't pick your family. And when you're fooled, okay, it pisses you off more.
Yeah.
You've been pissed off for 3 weeks because I could tell in your tone that you feel fooled.
I do. Because I feel like as fans, we invest a lot of ourselves into this game. And I don't, especially in Philadelphia, but I think the NFL, it's a reason the NFL is the most lucrative league in the world. It's a reason for that.
Oh, absolutely.
The NFL has found a way to weave and embed themselves in people's lives like no other. They've taken the Lord's Day and made it their own.
That's right.
Think about that. What sport has moved? What sport told Jesus to move over?
Hey, I'm telling you.
Think about that.
I agree.
So what the NFL has created
you ain't putting money in the basket anymore. You're putting it in cable TV.
The NFL has created legal cults. They've created legal cults.
Civic pride.
With these organizations, right? And we buy into it and we lean into it and we invest so much of ourselves, so much of our personal finance, so much of our time, the jerseys, the gear, the tickets, the concessions, the parking, the tailgating, the flags we wave, the shit we talk. We've embedded so much, we've wrapped so much of our identity as a city into our football teams. And when we invest so much and we see that it's not either being returned or whatever we were being sold is not exactly what it is, it's deflating. It's borderline disrespectful, and it feels like we've been bamboozled. And then look, some people may say, look, they're 11-5, man. What are you talking about? And I'm like, do you know how we got here? This is the hardest 11-5 record I've ever seen attained in my life.
Man, if you don't win the Super Bowl, 5-11, 11-5 is the same to me.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
the same to me.
The Buffalo Bills. If the Buffalo Bills can win the division on Sunday, think about that.
And be the 2 seed.
And be the 2 seed. And they and think about how
and
they
they
started.
get a shot at Baltimore in the AFC title game.
And think about how they started. So
terrible.
That all that record talk don't really mean nothing once things really start get going. It's about who's playing the best football at this time of the year. The Eagles are not doing that. So yeah, you're right. I feel fooled, and they've made it really hard to defend them on a week-to-week basis. And my opinion of this team in 2023 going into 2024 has changed. And I don't know where they go from here. I trust the quarterback. I trust the talent, but I don't trust I don't trust coaching right now.
There's only one way that he can be saved.
You talking about Nick?
Yeah. Win the Super Bowl. I think it's the only way he can be saved.
No, you're right. That is the only way he can be saved. That's anybody, right?
And you know what that'll do? That will entrench him in that community for the rest of his life.
No,
like Foles is.
All would be forgiven. All would be forgiven. If somehow, some way he got, I don't think it'll happen. But if he somehow, some way got this team to Super Bowl and they won it by 1 point,
shit, Tony.
He would forever.
They could win it by a safety. I don't care.
Right. They go. They go.
You can win it by a safety or a rouge. I don't give a shit.
Okay? Oh my God. Listen, I don't care if the other team starting quarterback got hurt. I don't care how you got it. Like if Nick Sirianni manages to do that somehow, some way, it'll be like everything that we experiencing right now never happened.
Here's a great example of how you look at your guys in Philly. Nobody looks at Nick Foles as being a backup quarterback who couldn't succeed in Philadelphia. You know what they
Hell no. We drafted him. Hell
you know you look at him as the man who delivered the greatest championship in city history.
Yes.
Who gives a shit about being a substitute teacher?
Listen, we drafted him. I don't care. We drafted him, baby.
Now you're adding some roses around it to make it look a little better. Hey, all I know is Super Bowl MVP. You beat 2 goats. It's all good. I don't need
that's
the
what
rose
I'm saying.
You want to throw rose petals out for him. You don't need it.
Hey, listen, man. What
Nick don't
better
need the rose petals?
What better Super Bowl do you beat the GOAT? You beat the GOAT. And not only that, you beat the guy that beat us in the Super Bowl in 2004, 2005. You exercised an old demon and you've created this new life for the city of Philadelphia. Like Nick Foles is undefeated. Nick Foles can listen. He ain't got to pay for a hotel stay. He ain't got to pay for a cheese stick. He ain't got to pay for a water ice or a soft pretzel. That man that don't got to pay for parking.
I'm going to make a prediction to you. When Tom Brady's standing in Canton and he's talking about his journey to the Hall of Fame, he will talk shit somehow on Nick Foles because he will always live rent-free in his brain. Because you know why? You can't tell me that that's not the worst loss in Tom Brady's historical career.
And you want to know why? Because he played the best he ever played. He played the best he ever played in the Super Bowl ever. We took Tom Brady's best shot and survived it somehow.
Didn't he throw for like a Super Bowl record?
He threw for like 500 yards.
500 something yards.
In hindsight, I think about what does that even look like? And when I watched the game back, I'm like, damn, he was dealing.
Dude, you 60 minutes, you threw 500 yards.
That's 5 football fields.
That's insanity. And lost.
What's more deflating than that?
How about the comment that I made about Jalen Hurts here? That in their efforts to get Jalen Hurts to look the way Jeffrey Lurie and everyone wanted, the expense was Hurts' offense would be less effective.
Mm-hmm. The turnovers, all that, yeah.
And the ranking.
Mm-hmm.
And the efficient. Hey, you're going to throw for more yards, have career years for everybody, and be least effective than you were a year ago. Was it worth it?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You
Then
know,
what's the point of what they're doing? That's, to me, again.
so they can go to these owners meetings and say, "Hey, we got ourselves a top flight QB," and this like it's all ego with these guys. It's
Their
all
focus
ego.
was so much on one side of the ball. I heard you talking about TJ earlier, and I expanded it. TJ Edwards' loss, it's not just the fact that he's not in there. He affected the entire room.
Correct.
The entire room. Do you know his importance, Tone, as important as Warner's and Roquan Smith? I'm not saying he's the player those guys are.
But value-wise, you're right. And that's, I'm so glad you brought this up, right?
They didn't put a money price on his value.
Exactly.
They looked, you know what the analytics guys did? They looked at his ability. Like we're talking about Lamar Jackson's impact in a game versus the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the statistics, he's nowhere in the top 10. But when you watch him in a game and you see his importance and his value to that unit, you know what you're looking at. That's the same thing with Edwards. Edwards is not Warner and Roquan talent-wise, but his value is just as important than those other guys.
That's why the Philadelphia Eagles are in a real tough situation, because my thing is they're going to have to decide, are you going to eventually value this position? Here's why. Because hear me out on this though. Eagles fans they jumped out the window from the Kobe Dean, right? Remember, they were ready to sell they were ready to sell the farm for him. But here's the thing, right? You jumping out the window for a guy that 9 times out of 10, the Philadelphia Eagles aren't even going to resign past the rookie deal. And this is what annoys me most about the TJ Edwards situation. You developed the guy. You found what's the difference between
you found him?
Yeah, what's the difference between drafting a guy on day 3 in the 7th round and signing an undrafted free agent on day 4? What's the difference?
It's more impressive if you found him.
It's more impressive if you find him. But here's the thing: you found the kid, you developed him. He became one of the most reliable linebackers in the league. You let him walk out the door. The linebacker position has A, been one of the harder positions for you to draft, B, one of the harder positions for you to evaluate in free agency as well. And you let a guy that you developed, a young guy that you probably could have got on a very friendly deal, you let him walk out the door, knowing you struggle finding people for this position in the first place. It makes no sense. That's the cockiness. That's the ego. Oh, we can find if we found TJ, we could find another one. Evidently, you can't, because TJ was the only linebacker that you found that was worth the damn.
Let me show you
that stayed healthy.
Let me show you the difference between San Francisco's mentality with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and Howie and Nick. I think those two guys are more partners in San Francisco than what Howie and Nick are. Yeah. I think Howie runs the whole thing. And I'm going to make a point to you, what you just said. So Trey Lance cost the 49ers 3 first-rounders. Brock Purdy was basically a UDFA on the last player taken. They look at Brock Purdy now as a franchise quarterback, and they're going to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
Howie looked at TJ Edwards as a UDFA his entire career in Philly, that they could just replace that. He never looked at the player and what he became and what they did. He looked at him from the day they signed him.
His mom was made up.
Yep. The mentality of how they looked at TJ Edwards never deviated.
Never changed.
In San Francisco, do you think that mentality's changed on Brock Purdy and how they look at him and how he's the last? They look at him as a franchise quarterback. They're going to get $55 million. They're not looking at him as Mr. Irrelevant.
No, you can't. Not anymore.
The Eagles looked at TJ Edwards as Mr. Irrelevant from day one to his last day.
And it never changed.
Because
they didn't value the position.
It's because it's how they analytically pick players and evaluate players.
And look, there are a lot of teams.
Do you look at Fred Warner now as a 3rd rounder? Or do you look at Fred Warner as a guy who would probably be a top 5 pick in the draft?
Listen, if you would have never told me, I would have thought he was drafted in the top 15.
Me
If you
too.
never told
When
me,
somebody told me third round, I'm like,
I
this
was
guy
like,
got
I was like,
first
what?
round as Kobe Dean.
Yeah,
That's
I was like, get the hell.
insane.
I was like, how? So I did my research, and I'm like, hold on, wait, he was drafted third round, and as a matter of fact, what school did he go to?
Fred Warner, is he a USC guy? I mean, is he a SEC guy?
He went to BYU.
Holy cow!
BYU. He is a California guy though, but
He's a BYU guy.
they found him at BYU.
That had to be something to do with Steve Young talking to John Lynch, or no? Lynch's connections because he played with the Broncos and he's got a lot of ties into Colorado.
He spent 4 years at BYU from
That's
2014
crazy.
to 2017. And
I don't remember him there. Was he a first team All-American? I don't remember him there.
Let's find out. He was nope. I'm not saying any of that. Nope.
Player development.
They developed him.
They developed him and found him and kept him. Now he makes $20 million.
Yeah, his contract. Yeah. He came in and started from day one. He started from day one. That's crazy. They drafted him in 2018, and he started from day one.
Stopped looking at TJ Edwards. You see how you know what he does? He's got a class problem in how he looks at people in his draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
And you started this. Well, Boston Scott's a Doug guy. TJ Edwards is an undrafted guy. I drafted Jalen Reagor and Derek Barnett. Well, first rounders, Andre Dill, these are my guys. And so, he looks at people and he puts people in classes. First round, second round, third round, premium pick, not a premium pick. I can move off of him. Hey, he's a free agent. He's just a hired mercenary.
Let me ask you this: how
he never deviates off of value? He doesn't look at people with value.
Let me ask you this: how
he fired the coach?
How do you balance production with compensation? And this is what I mean by this, right? Or value. This is what I mean by this. I'm all for playing the guy who's playing the best. But in the NFL, you pay him, you play him. So how, as a GM, as a coach, how do I balance those two competing things? I have a guy on my roster who's outplaying my big money guy by far, but I paid this guy this X amount of money. How do I balance that?
Okay. If Sean Payton was the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, would James Bradberry be starting?
No.
Okay. Nick Sirianni's the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Is James Bradberry starting?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
It's a big difference. It's very yeah. I kind of just answered my own question right there.
They put down a $280 million guy, sat his ass, because Sean and the organization came together and sat a guy who wasn't playing poorly.
They made a business decision. Yeah.
Nick can't make that decision to sit James Bradberry.
And that's how you know. So, let me ask you this. That's a good question. I'm glad you went there. Do you think if Nick had more autonomy, do you think he would be better at his job?
Yeah. But then you start to go down the Doug Pederson road. You see what I'll tell you what Nick's doing right now. Nick is making it very clear that the Super Bowl that he went to and helped take the team to will not be a distraction in his future with the organization like it was with Doug. So he's going to play along as long as he can. And he's going to fall on the sword like the commissioner of the National Football League falls on the sword for the owners with dumb, stupid shit, public things and whatever. The commissioner's there. He falls on the sword for the organization. That's his number one job right now. That's why he doesn't rip the players. Why would he rip the players? Jeffrey Lurie's kid, Howie, and everyone are involved in the process. You'd be ripping management. You can't rip the players. Those are Howie's guys. It can't, remember what you say. Well, it can't be the players. It's got to be the coaching. So he falls on the sword for that. They play politics more than any organization I've seen since the Chargers. That's how you have to be in that Charger organization. And I'll tell you this, the reason they fired Tom Telesco, it's a tea leaf for the next coach to go like this. The next head coach is going to have Sean Payton powers. They're telling you, hey, Bill, you want the job? They're telling you in Las Vegas, Bill, you want the job?
Chip Kelly couldn't have scarred Howie this much. He scarred Jeffrey and Howie this much.
Yes. Because
is that a real thing? Like, can you really be scarred that bad in the NFL to the point where
it's a lack? Remember something. The owner of the Philadelphia Eagles would rather pay you $20 million to be the coach than pay you in power.
See, me, I own the team. There's no. At the end of the day,
he wants Jerry Jones say. He wants Jerry Jones day-to-day say in the direction of the team. But, watching this stuff for 3 years now, it's so clear. It's a great question about Sirianni. Could Sirianni be a good coach? I've always wondered that about Jason Garrett. Would Jason Garrett be a better head coach somewhere else? Can you imagine this? I think Mike McCarthy has done a remarkable job being the head coach of the Cowboys. I'll tell you why. Yeah. You not only have to manage your team, you got to manage Jerry.
Yeah.
And you got to manage showing that you can move the sticks and help Dak. Dak's had a career year.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather coach under Jerry or coach under Jeffrey Lurie?
I'd rather coach under Jerry.
How come?
Because Jerry wants you to win. He wants your coaches. Look at Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's got total say on that defense.
Yes, he does.
Jerry's not involved in the defense. Front office is. Let's get a new coordinator. Let's do this. He did everything he could to keep Dan Quinn in the building.
That's true.
Dan Quinn was interviewing for head coaching jobs. Here's another $3 million. You had a guy who went to Baltimore who should have been the D coordinator, Denard Wilson. Should have been the D coordinator of the team, and guess what they did? They didn't want to hear his shit.
So let me ask you this, right? Before we get our guy Philly 500 on, real quick. When you look at teams that have this philosophy they live and die by, have you ever seen an organization have an overhaul in philosophy and they actually
Eagles with Chip? That was a complete overhaul from the Joe Banner days and Andy Reid days on giving complete autonomy to a college guy who had never had any kind of fundamental. What they thought they were going to get with Chip was this. The same shit they got with Carroll and Jimmy Johnson, that they knew all the recruits and the guys in the building, when in essence, anybody who coaches at Oregon will always have to understand that's Phil Knight's money. Phil Knight. Have you ever seen a college coach at Oregon not good? Oregon's always good.
Yeah, you got a point.
Somewhere else, how are they?
So do you think they're capable of doing
struggling at Miami?
So do you think they're capable of doing that again? Do you think they're capable of going through maybe not a whole overhaul, but do you think they're capable of looking at themselves in the mirror again and say, okay, the way we've been doing things, we got to tweak it a little bit? Equity. You think the Super Bowl did that?
The Super Bowl appearance and the Super Bowl win. And remember something. Jeffrey Lurie's tied to Howie now. Because once they got rid of Doug, you see, remember something. This is the same reason that Jerry got rid of Jimmy. He got rid of Jimmy because he wanted the same thing that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie want. You know what that is? The complete and utter fact that you were the responsible entities
they want
that
the credit.
Won that Super Bowl.
The credit.
They wanted the credit. Ego fired Doug. Doug too. Doug's ego too. But Doug thought he had built up enough love and equity that the
to at least pick his own staff. to at least pick his own staff, which I think he
To
should
do
have
the
that right.
thing.
Right.
When you pick your own staff, dude, let me tell you what a staff is. Do you know the most subversive guy in the building is when it comes to a coaching staff that's being assembled?
Who?
The most subversive guy in the building is the trainer and the equipment guy. Because you know what they are? They're spies to the front office. That's why when Jimmy went in everywhere, his strength and conditioning coach, he fired everybody. When Jimmy got there, he fired. So did Pete when he got to Seattle. He fired everybody. And you know what Jimmy said to me? I kept 5 people who are still in the building today. I said, why'd you keep 5 people? He goes, because those 5 people are going to be grateful to keep their gigs.
He was moving like a mafia boss. I like that.
Oh,
I like that.
He didn't want whispering in the corners. So he got rid of every Landry guy, every person that loved Coach. It's why they hated the guy. And when he got in there, remember something, though. He was doing this without Jerry Jones's say. He was firing people that had been in the building like Tech Schramm for 29 years. Gil Brandt, 31 years. Fired them all. Knew them. Brought in Larry Lacewell. Jimmy was like this. We ain't having any of this because I'm bringing my guys in the boat. See, when you gotta answer to Howie and his guys, you have no autonomy in the building.
Yeah, you're
Look
right,
at
man.
Pete Carroll in Seattle. Who would have thought Seattle's a better organization right now than Denver?
Nobody would have thought that, especially after the Russell trade. Nobody would have thought that.
Right?
Everybody wrote off Seattle. But
Name me a place where you win a Super Bowl in the front office of today's NFL.
That's a good point.
You got to have leadership on the sidelines.
And the Eagles don't have that.
No, they got a cheerleader.
Yep.
Let me get my boy in here. Let's get a fan's perspective in here.
Yes, sir, man. Shout out to our guy Philly 500. Thanks, Sills. I appreciate you, man. Let's bring him in.
That was awesome.
Definitely.
You got it. Let's bring my boy in, man, who's been chomping at the bit too, man. I've been watching his show and I've been watching and reading his tweets and shit, man. I can't wait to hear this. Let's bring in Philly 500. Dude,
what's up, Big Sills?
You're shaking your head like you have agita.
Oh man, this is craziness, dude. I feel like we're sitting on death row right now, and we're just waiting for the playoffs to start to take us out of our misery. That's honestly how I feel. Nick Kotite needs to go. He needs to go. I don't believe that there's any coming back from this. I think this is a guy that lost the locker room, and I really don't know how you get it back, because I've been thinking a lot about this. I went back and I watched the end of the Buffalo game, and then I watched the beginning of the 49ers game. I believe something happened between those two games, because when the Eagles came in that 49ers game, it wasn't the 49ers that put a blueprint out. That team was checked out before that game even started. And I think something happened internally during that week.
You think there was a dust up between the players? Or do you think there was a dust up between the coaches and the players?
No, I think there's a dust up. Here's what I think happened, and this is speculation. But you got A.J. Brown. He's not talking, right? He's not talking to the media and stuff, and it's not the media he's mad at. It's the coaching staff. Well, a person doesn't shut down like that normally, just shut down like that, unless you shut them down. I bet you, and I'm willing to bet, that A.J. Brown and other players went to those coaches and said, we need to do certain things. We need to change some things up. And they told him to pound sand. I think that's what happened. I think they shut those players down because he's frustrated. You have look, Jalen Hurts, look at him on the sideline. Look how he reacts. Look at A.J. Brown not talking. Look at the dust up between Sirianni and Devontae Smith the week prior. This whole team is checked out. They're checked out. You know, they also say, what do they say about stopping the run? It's an attitude, right? Players check out. They're not going to stop the run. How do you go from having the best run defense first 9 weeks to the absolute worst?
Coming to the conclusion that you're putting me in a shitty position to succeed week in and week out. It's easier to surrender, Philly 500. Look, I think, and I said this to Tone a couple minutes ago, that I think the players were buying into it all the way until week 11. And then when they went through that gauntlet, the gauntlet exposed the coaches. And once they kept putting them in poor positions to succeed, Seattle and Arizona, those games were lost in San Francisco's game. That because you're not buying in. And tell me this, how do you have this so-called phenomenal culture in the building and it turns in a month? You know how it turns? The players aren't bought in.
Yeah.
Do you think Nick Sirianni's coaching for his job these next 2 games?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you remember the last time I was on. I said if we lose one of the next 3 games and they lose in the first round of the playoffs, he's going to get fired. And I believe that's more true than ever. I think if he doesn't get out of that first round of playoffs, they're going to fire him. I just don't know how you come back. How do you gain the locker room back? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I mean, that team's checked out. You had the Arizona Cardinals, a 3-win team, didn't even punt the whole game. And then with the whole
on the ground, 5.5 yards a carry. They're horrible.
And they always say it's an attitude about tackling and playing defense, stopping the run. That tells me the player's heart isn't in it. And even in the first quarter of that game, the announcers were like, the Eagles just seem a little bit checked out. You could see it, how they react going through. It's almost like they're just going through the motions. And I don't believe a guy like A.J. Brown just stops talking because he just doesn't want to say something that might offend the coaches. I think he went to the coaches, and I think they shut him down. I think they shut all those players down. That's what I truly believe.
Who has frustrated you more this year when it comes to the Eagles? The offense, Sirianni, or the defense?
It's like what form of torture do you like the most? I think it's Sirianni. I think he's probably
it's like asking, do you want to be shot or hung?
Right. I mean, like I know on some level, I know the defense is fundamentally broken. Like I understand that on a certain level, but when you see the last series, right, the series before last, it was a tie game, 20-28. You have the 1st and 20. You do the 2 quarterback runs. You have to burn a timeout. Then you do a screen to Gainwell of all people. Like, to me, it was like this coach has no feel for this game, because the one thing that everybody knew was you needed to score a touchdown because you could not stop the Cardinals, and they were going to get the ball back because Gannon was smart enough to kick an onside kick knowing that he would get time.
I was so proud of you on you being one of the very few people that did exactly what I did. As soon as he kicked it, I went like this. Yeah. Holy fuck. This guy, that's a brilliant play. If he gets it, it's just the cherry on top of the cake. But he saved time. He knew they weren't going to shut it down. Once they kicked the field goal, you and I both knew Cardinals were going to win the game.
Yeah, the Cardinals were going to win the game. Even if the Eagles score a touchdown, he's going to go down there, score a touchdown.
Because they
and he's going to go for, and he's going to go for 2.
He was going to go for 2.
Go for 2. Yeah, it was such a genius, smart move by him. And what really bothered me was that the only real move to counter that is you got to go score a touchdown.
Yes.
And they were playing for a field goal. Like, does this coach not have any feel for this game and what's going on? So I think he's the most frustrating piece of this whole thing.
Okay. I asked Tonis, and I want to hear your take on this. And I'm going to go back because I think it's relevant to what's happening now. When Wentz got hurt in 17, do you believe that Howie and Laurie thought that football team could just have the next man up mentality? Or do you think in that building they panicked in Philly? Where I'm going here is they panicked at 10-2.
Yeah.
This year they panicked. Yeah. Why would I believe that they wouldn't have panicked then? And it was Doug who saved their ass.
Yeah. So what? You want to know, do I think the front office knew they were going to win a Super Bowl?
No, I'm saying this is the reason And one of the reasons they had to get Doug out of the building is because they wanted to take complete ego control of that win in 17. And now when they built that team get this, they built a great team and they got beat by a lesser team in the Super Bowl 11 months ago. It was coaching. They have not put the proper – my thing is this organization panics.
Yes.
Doug covered their panic in 17 with a win.
Yeah. I mean, they
do you
went
agree
back
with that?
Yeah, I do, because I think they do panic. I mean, the way they handled the Desai thing was a panic move. It was a completely panic move, and their defense looks worse. So yeah, they probably did panic in the front office, and I think Doug and Frank Reich were smart enough to, change the offense enough to fit Foles, and it worked out, obviously.
Do they beat the Giants this weekend?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I want to show you something here. Like, again, I'm going to go back to this. How did this football team go from being all in, pushing the chips in, to being a Super Bowl team? And I asked my friend Tone this one too. Do you feel lied to and portrayed on how the organization portrayed Nick Sirianni and how they rolled him out there? And now that all of a sudden some rough waters have been out there, you looking at the guy, or was there always something where you went like this with the dude from the first press conference, but the 10-1 record, which is not wrong? Did it snow you, the 10-1 record, because you were like, the guy's winning, but he's like squirmy at the mic?
No, I have to keep it real. I thought, okay, yeah, all the things with the mic, and he says some stupid things, but you know what? Not only were we starting this season 10-1, we were just in the Super Bowl, and we had 32 straight weeks being the best record in the National Football League. So to me, I didn't. I thought, I thought he must be a pretty good coach. He's doing something right. It wasn't until that 49ers game and the way they came into that game that really made me think, well, what's wrong? Why is this team not ready to play this game when you've had all the stuff going on in the offseason with the 49ers? I thought it was really weird, because I didn't think the Eagles were ready to play that game. I don't think they were ready to play the Dallas game. And, then obviously you could see it on the players' faces. So I think I thought he was a good coach, and I bought in because of the record. No, there's no doubt.
Okay, here's one for you. Who disappointed you more, Carson Wentz or Nick Sirianni?
Nick Sirianni.
Wow.
Nick Sirianni. Yeah. Because Carson Wentz, it was like, you did get the Super Bowl in 2017, so that makes things a little easier. What I didn't like about Carson Wentz was I didn't like that he wanted to get traded. I thought he should have stuck around and tried to fight for his job. But with Nick Sirianni, what I'm seeing is a guy in my personal beliefs that doesn't care about anything around. He's just going to do it his way. So I look at a guy like that doesn't even have control of his own locker room, yet he claims to be a player's coach. A guy that talks about fundamentals all the time, yet this team has no fundamentals at all. So to me, Sirianni is more of a disappointment. This is a historical collapse, Sills. This isn't just a choke job.
More of a disappointment than Carson Wentz in your eyes in Eagle history.
Yes. This is a team. Listen, this is one of the most talented if you look at just the players, it's one of the most talented teams we've had. I can't remember a receiving core like that. One of the best offensive lines. I can't remember a team that has the talent that this team has on paper, and then literally not use that talent to their benefit each and every week. They don't do it. What is Gainwell even playing for? Well, you look at DeAndre Swift on the field, and you look at Gainwell. Yet Gainwell gets more snaps in a game. Like there's just some really dumb things.
You want to listen to these numbers here. Listen to these numbers here offensively. You're going to, for the second year in a row, have 2 1,000-yard receivers. You're going to have a running back over probably 1,100 yards rushing.
Right.
You're going to have a quarterback probably 4,000 yards passing. And you were less effective this year than you were a year ago, and you threw for less yards.
Yeah.
You were 9th last year in passing. You're 16th this year. How can you be less effective? It's because of the turnovers. They put him in a position. I think they're really hurting this kid's development.
Yeah, that's also the other concern with me. If I have that much invested in Jalen Hurts and I have a coach that has lost the locker room and doesn't really know what to do with him, I mean, I'm sorry, but 2 runs in a row on first and second down in that sequence the other day, it's just like it's crazy to me. Why, when you have a quarterback with a hurt knee, why are you running him so much? It doesn't make sense to me. I think that the Eagles have to take into account Jalen Hurts and his development, whether you keep this guy or not. You know, at the very least, you have to bring a guy like Frank Reich in next year, somebody to take over the offense. At the very least. But Sills, I don't think this guy can make it. I don't think he can make it to this year.
If he loses to the Giants and Tyrod Taylor, by the way, they got Saquon Barkley. They're going to watch the film on what the Cardinals did. I don't think the Giants are any less talented or any more talented than Arizona, right? I don't think they're probably the same. Okay, right? How hot does the hot seat get for him? Does the furnace get turned up exceptionally high? Is this guy in Hades by the time Monday comes, man? Is he in room Hades?
Yeah, I'd have fired his ass this week. I think you have a better chance to go far in the playoffs firing him and getting the locker room back than having him continue to coach. That's how bad I think this is. I really don't know if they're going to beat the Giants. I can see the Giants winning that game. This team can't do anything. I think they're dead men walking going into the playoffs. The guy's talking about taking out his starters if the Dallas scores. Like, shut up. I just don't want to hear him anymore. You know, you can't beat the Cardinals. You might not beat the Giants. And then I don't know how you're going to go beat anybody in the playoffs at this point.
Wait a minute. Take your starters out on defense. I'll have to get a practice squad roster sheet because I don't know who's on your team then. Dude, if you take, wait a minute, Tone, Philly, think about this. If you take your starters out on defense, you'll give up 70 points to the Giants.
Right. And if I'm the Giants, I'm running Barkley 40 times. I'm giving him 40 carries. You can't stop the run. Every three downs, you're going to get a first down.
Hey, and he gets Devontae Smith hurt.
Yeah. I mean,
wait a minute. Blocking for Kenny Gainwell. I was talking to everyone yesterday. I said, well, if I'm going to use that play, I'm going to turn that dynamic around. Gainwell's going to block for Devontae. I want the ball in Devontae's hands, not Kenny nobody well.
Right.
Kenny,
you know what's so crazy is
your fascination with that guy is like Trump's fascination with Stormy Daniels.
It's not going to end well. That's
right. You're going to be in a courtroom. It's not going to be well.
Gainwell, I don't get it. I mean, every time it's like you watch the whole year, every time Swift gets going, they pull him out and put Gainwell in. And they put him in for like whole entire quarters. Why that whole sequence? See, like that sequence to me is such a panic sequence. It's a coach that does not know or have any feel for the game. He doesn't have a feel for what's going on. And he's panicking about getting 3 points instead of trying to score a touchdown. And you run it twice. You have to burn a they burn a timeout to call that screen to Gainwell.
Yeah, that's
like
because
they had to burn a timeout.
Their son, what's his name? Julian Laurie. The kids up there playing like Madden. and think
This
he
is
knows
like
what's going on with the analytics.
this should be like the next Revenge of the Nerds movie.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Can you
Because
imagine
like
being in
they're
that
killing
room with
us.
like Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, and Julian Lurie? It must be like the room where you go like this. Hey, in the dodgeball game, I'm going to smash that guy's face in with the dodgeball. You get that guy over there, and then you get Howie. Finish him last. We'll all converge on him. Those are the guys you knock out a dodgeball right away. Because you know why? Those are the guys with the protractors and the ruler
the
and the
protagon,
finger and all that.
yeah, the pencil
Yeah.
protectors.
Or
Yeah.
like you can throw Patricia's ass in that thing too if you want with that pencil
Yeah.
behind his ear.
Oh yeah, it's just like this is like Revenge of the Nerds 4.
Yes.
The nerds destroy an NFL team. That's like the sequel.
That the only thing you would ever see behind Big Sills and Philly 500's ear would be a chopstick because we just got out of a Chinese restaurant.
That's about right. That's right. Ain't no way I'm doing a pencil. Those guys calculate the calculations. Yes.
Okay. Do both coordinators get replaced in the offseason?
Yes. Yeah. I think at the very minimum, you're going to get 2 new coordinators. At the very minimum. Now, I honestly don't think Sirianni is going to make it. The only way I think Sirianni makes it is he's got to win at least one playoff game. He's got to at least get to the divisional round. I don't think if he doesn't, look, this epic collapse. So they're going to write this collapse in history books.
I think that, would you agree? I think that Arizona loss, you're going to remember that loss for the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the worst losses I remember in years.
You think that's the biggest loss in the last 10 years?
I mean, if you want to
non-playoff,
take out non-playoffs and Super Bowl, yeah, I would think so. I mean, with what was at stake, you just had Detroit lose. You control your way to winning the division, and you have the second seed. Instead, you give the Dallas Cowboys, a team that's actually good at home, you give them 2 playoff games at home now. It has to be one of the worst losses, and it has to be one of the worst efforts I've ever seen.
So how was the Philly 500 crew dealing with this enormous collapse? I mean, I know Harrisburg, you're too young for this. There's a place called 3 Mile Island. That place had a nuclear reactor situation when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And Harrisburg is 3, and it's about an hour and a half from Harrisburg to Philly. So I'm just wondering, are you guys looking at this thing like a Chernobyl / 3 Mile Island meltdown kind of deal here that's going on?
Yeah, where you just have to blow the whole thing up. You know, I don't think from the players, I tend to believe that the players are upset for a reason. And when, if I'm the owner, if I'm a GM, I'm going to listen to my players, and what they're saying about AJ Brown not talking to the media. And what they're saying is that a lot of the players agree with him. They're just not handling it the same way. And I actually respect AJ Brown for not trying to blow smoke up everybody's butt and say, oh, we just got to do this. Yeah. He's saying, no, I'm not going to say anything because if I do, I have to tell you the truth. I kind of respect that. So I do.
I backed up on calling him T.L. Brown now because I think I think what he's trying to tell people, I'm not ripping anybody. I'm not ripping my teammates. I'm not ripping the fans. I'm ripping the coaches.
Right.
I think that's totally what he's aiming at. And that's why Sirianni had today, get this, he had to address it because the question was asked to him, have you had a conversation with AJ? And again, those dummy, cringy responses of his, instead of just telling the interview guy, yeah, we had a conversation between the player and myself. And end it there. Don't go into your cringy, we're boys, kumbaya, we threw my arms around each other, we were swapping spit, then we had a couple of beers and we're ready to go out chasing hookers. Hey, all good and everything. I mean, hey, that's another thing. Couple last questions here. Sirianni, have you ever heard him criticize a player?
No, I don't think I've heard, not specifically.
Isn't it weird by a coach never to say something where a guy's not playing well?
Yeah, I guess.
Can you imagine Mike Tomlin? Can you imagine Mike Tomlin in a four you lose 4 or 5, and you got that talent? Can you imagine Mike Tomlin walking up to the microphone going, yeah, this is all my fault. The coordinator's doing a great job. Everybody's great. The quarterback's playing well.
Right.
Or does Mike Tomlin get out there and go, that guy's not doing very well? And by the way, that guy right there's got a lot of noise in his life. George Pickens needs to straighten his ass up. And if he doesn't, I'll have a conversation with him. Dude, that guy, you're sitting there going, okay. Then he goes out and gets 195 yards the next weekend, and he wins 2 games in a row with Mason Rudolph.
Right. Yeah.
One of the reindeers on Santa's sleigh.
Right. I think Nick Sirianni sees himself as a player's coach. But, when you have a wide receiver, star wide receiver, doesn't want to even talk now, and then you throw him the ball one time in the second half, you're not listening to your players at all.
Players coach. Whoever dubbed him that, a player's coach.
I think that's how he sees himself. Just by the way he talks. That's what I think.
Philly,
he's got the shirts.
I don't want a butt buddy as my coach. I want a coach. I want a coach who's going to be like Mike.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. Listen, I thought, man, after that San Francisco game, this coach needs to put his foot up their butts and get on this team because they weren't ready to play. But now I realize it ain't the players, it's him. Those players, if you go back to that Buffalo game, we were talking about this team never quits. This team's always in it. They just keep coming. You don't go from that to you can't do anything. You can't win anything.
The players stop playing.
Yes, exactly. That's my point.
And if he's a player's coach, Philly, how does a player's coach get his players to stop playing? You know how it is? You don't buy into the guy because you think he's full of shit.
Yeah. And my bet, and I'm willing to bet this will come out later, that the players did approach him and he wasn't receptive to what they were saying because he wants to do things his way and not the right way. Every week we know.
You mean Howie's way, not his way.
Howie's way, whoever's way. But, listen, why is the crowd in Philly yelling, run the ball? How come they know that and he doesn't? You know what I'm saying? Like it's so easy what he has to do to fix a lot of these issues, but he refuses to do it every week. Every week. So he's not listening to the obvious things. He's trying to stick a square peg in a round hole, and I think these players I think they checked out on him. I think they checked out.
What's the score Sunday?
Oh God!
And look how fed up you are.
because I can literally close my eyes and I can really see the Giants.
Could you see 2019 Giants?
Yeah, I could. I could. I'm going to say I don't even know.
Wow.
16-13.
Holy shit, man. We're going back to the 70s here with Joe Pisarcik and Jaworski days.
I don't see this thing getting better. I don't think this is a thing where you can fix it. I think if they would have, if it's something that could have been fixed, they would have fixed it already. This is getting worse every week, Sills. Every week we hear more and more, we got to do this, we got to change this, but every week it's worse and worse. So what's the next level of after the Arizona game? What's worse than that? Probably 16-13.
I'll say this to you. If he loses that Giants game, I will tell you this. I don't think there's anything he could do to save his job except win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Wait a minute. That was so well done. Finally here. This is going to be even more of a pathetic question to you. And I'm almost embarrassed to ask you it, but I will. Listen to this ridiculous question. I have to put my head down to ask you because I can't believe it. Ready?
Yeah.
Who gives you a better chance of winning an opening round game, New Orleans or playing the Bucs? Think about New Orleans. Alvin Kamara, Olave, that whole group, they're decent on defense. Then you got Mike Evans to deal with. They're better than they were when they played them last, but you have to go to Tampa and play them down there.
And you already beat them once, so
You already beat them once. They're going to
so
know
it's
what
never
to do.
easy.
Todd Bowles is going to know what to do.
I think New Orleans would be easier, but I don't think it's likely. I at this point I don't.
You don't think they could beat the Bucs or the Saints?
I don't think so. No, I don't think they're winning the first round playoffs. I think it's over. I think it's done. I think these players checked out. I think these players are going through the motion the next 2 weeks, and we go. That's why I said I feel like we're on death row. We're just waiting for our execution day. I don't see this. I don't see how this team recovers. Now, maybe I'm being over dramatic. I don't know, but every week it gets worse and worse.
Oh, it does.
And they don't do anything about it. So at this point, just listening to AJ Brown in the press conference, and he made sure he told the media, it ain't you. Okay. That's a guy that he wasn't even angry. He checked out. He's checked out. When you don't care about something that you're not even getting mad anymore, I don't know. I don't think this coach can get. And I hate saying this. This is horrible. I can't believe we're in this situation, but I don't see how this coach can get this locker room back.
No.
Now maybe the players and they step up.
The players
in their
can do
leaderships and they do
the
it.
Players can get the locker room back.
But what I don't want is I hate saying this, but I don't want them to go on some run and then keep this coach around one more year so that he can only do this stuff next year to us. I want him gone.
I want this guy out of here, man. I want him gone. So hey, who's a better coach, Rich Kotite or Rich Kotite? Put these in order: Rich Kotite, Chip Kelly, Nick Sirianni.
In order from best to worst, or worst
yes,
to best? From best to worst. Number one would be Chip Dip Kelly. Would have to be better than both those guys.
Three guys you hate a lot.
I hate Nick Kotite. Nick Kotite may be the worst of them. I'll put Rich Kotite 2 and Nick Kotite the worst. Here's the problem with Nick Kotite. He literally collapsed a 10-1 team that was 2 games up on first place in the conference.
And you were playing last week against a shitty 3-win team for home field advantage.
Yeah, all you had to
NFC
do
East was in. Hey, I'm gonna end this with just. I want you to know something because I know this will put the cherry on top of everything for you. I got a text message from Stephen Jones thanking you, Philly 500.
Me?
Hey, thanking you for having your team in an epic collapse so that they could win the NFC East. And hey, the Cowboys are very thankful to you and your show for continuing. Hey, since The Rock gave me a shout out, right. Stephen Jones is giving you a shout out right now for helping and ripping the Eagles as they go through their colossal. Look at Tom. So hey, look at you guys with the the Cowboys, and you know how bad that is for Tone and you when you mention.
Oh
Cowboys.
yeah, well because we just gave them 2 home games. We literally just gave them 2 home games. They can win at home. They're good at home.
Tone,
they're
come
good
on
at
here
home.
For a second.
Get over here, Tone. But they're good at home, so they get 2 home games now.
The Cowboys want to just thank you so much for allowing that to, blowing the Cardinal game. Do you know that they looked in the locker room and they went like this, the players, and almost you could hear it. They said, Bruce Mace, who's part of Jerry's upper office, goes like this. You could collectively hear people going like this. Oh my God, we just won the NFC East.
Oh, I know.
Did I hear moaning in the room?
It's really crazy to me because you just put the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. That's how I look at it. They're not going to lose 2 home games. They'll lose to the Niners at home. On the road. They'll lose on the road. but they're not gonna lose those 2 games. That was our path to get to the NFC Championship game, and we just handed it to them.
Yeah. I mean, 500 just laid it out perfectly. You handed the Cowboys 2 home games in a row.
Damn.
And they're going to the NFC Championship.
Your arch enemies, you guys gave, instead of them earning it, maybe the curse is real. Maybe, what was it, since 2011, nobody's won back-to-back?
Yeah.
Maybe that curse is real.
But that's why.
You know what's going to happen this week, right? The Dallas Cowboys are going to lose to Washington, and we're going to lose to the Giants. You watch. It's going to happen.
Why don't I
that.
think that that's not out of the realm of possibility?
It's not. We're going to be like, Dallas just lost, and we're going to be up like 7 points with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And we're going to blow it. We're going to blow the whole
And
game.
Tyrod Taylor's going to come back and
Tyrod Taylor
and etch his name next to Drew Lock as an epic win this year. Is that right?
Yeah. That's what'll happen.
If you notice, 500 and I are wearing all black for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm surprised you guys don't have an armband. Hey, an armband that says NS. What's that for? Nick Sirianni, man. Okay, that's his armband. We'll all be wearing armbands. He loses to the Giants. I'll tell you that.
Listen,
I mean, hey, Tone, do you feel like you're basically sitting on death row and you're just waiting 2 weeks for execution day? Because that's how I feel.
I'm so glad you said that, 500. Literally, yesterday I was asked by Rob Ellis. He said, so where are you with this team? I said, honestly, I'm just waiting for it all to be over. I'm waiting for it all to be over. Because like the defense can't stop a nosebleed. They let the Cardinals look good. So what's going to happen if the Rams or the Buccaneers play them this go around? Right? I mean, they blew a golden opportunity, and that's even more reason why Nick Sirianni doesn't deserve to have his key fob anymore. Because not only did you blow a 2-game lead in the conference, but you also handed the division to the Cowboys, and now Jeffrey Lurie lost out on at least 2 home games. So when you think about it from that perspective, he lost you money, he lost you playoff seeding, he lost you key games and matchups. And listen, this has been a collapse by epic proportions for Nick Sirianni and his team.
So we're looking at you two guys want to euthanize Nick Sirianni's coaching career.
I don't think you have a choice. You got to put him out of his misery.
Right.
You know?
You ever read Old Yeller?
Euthanize the guy's career.
Yeah, Old Yeller. That's right. Nick Sirianni, Old Yeller.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got rabies.
Just take him out back and just let him have it.
Jesus criminy, man. Call of the Wild. Put the dog to rest, man.
You lose a locker room the way he's lost it. I honestly don't know what the alternative. How do you get a lock? How do you get the locker room?
If you were in that locker room, 500, if you two were in that locker room and you experienced this, wouldn't he lose you?
Yeah.
Oh, completely.
Especially, and I believe those players. I believe those players did go up to him and did talk to him. I think that's why A.J. Brown is so shut down.
Don't they have a leadership council? Don't they have?
They
like
probably did, and they probably went to him and he said, "No, we're not changing." I mean, you don't shut down. A.J. Brown doesn't shut down because he just doesn't want to say that. Like, there's got to be more to it. I believe that these players have already spoken to the coaches, and they didn't want to change.
I'm so glad you said that, 500. Let's assume they already spoke to the coaches about their issues, right? And things still aren't changing. That implies what? That implies what? Your coach is not in control.
Right.
And that team, once they smelled that and it got solidified with the Desai situation, they realized, oh no, this kid, this guy's a poser. He's not I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't trust this guy.
And remember something too, Tone. The offensive guys are going to be more in tune with the organization. But you know why the defensive guys aren't? Most of them are mercenaries. And I say this like this, check it out. Those guys aren't homegrown guys. The entire linebacking core is not. Many guys in your secondary. There's Hassan Reddick is a mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be questioning whether they're going to even bring him back.
Did you guys see Hassan Reddick and Jason Kelsey's recent press conference? I've never seen in Philly 500. Let me get your thoughts on this too, right? I've never seen Hassan Reddick speechless. He just kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. He kept, they want to share their feelings so bad. But all they could say is, I don't know. That's all they can say.
Yeah. Yeah, because they want to talk about the coaches. And that's why, when people get down on AJ Brown, I'm like, I think he's a leader because he's saying, I'm not going to bullcrap anybody. I'm just not going to say anything. But I mean, did you see how they said they dropped Hassan Reddick into coverage more than any time?
Yeah.
In any game. Why would
you see him
you
go
do
over
that?
to the sidelines? You see him go over to the sidelines shaking his head?
Yeah, because I mean he's your best pass rusher. He's been your only consistent pass rusher, to be honest. This year.
Hold on, guys. I got to get you guys something.
No. I mean, 500. You're so right. I mean, he's been the most consistent pass rusher. Yet you keep dropping him back in coverage.
Keep dropping him back. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, right? You look at Nick Sirianni right now, and the way things are going. Like, how much time do you think he has left realistically? Obviously, we would fire. Hey, listen, Sills, what the hell? What's going on here? What's
what
satanic stars?
I'm sorry.
He's putting up satanic symbols right there.
What's going on here? Wait a minute. What's going on here? What's going? Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry, man. I don't know. Hey, I'm sorry, man. It just
No, you're not doing it.
I don't know what's happening, man.
I'd keep that thing in the garage if I were you.
You're not doing it to me. You're not doing it to me today. Nope. You're not doing it. You're not
Sills,
doing
you hear like voices and ghosts at night? It's probably coming from that satanic helmet.
No. I just hear this going up at night.
Hey, 500. You smell that? It smells like a latrine or something. What is that?
Oh.
It does.
Yeah, as I end here, guys, I just want to once again, Stephen Jones, congratulating you guys on giving the Cowboys the NFC East. So, I mean, get this. Against the Cardinals.
Against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Hey, what's a worse loss, Tone? Cardinals or the Seahawk loss?
Cardinals.
Oh, Cardinals.
Cardinals
is epic proportion. I mean, when they write history books about teams that collapse, this is going to be the number one team on there. Because to me, this is the most epic collapse I've ever seen for an NFL team. 10-1, 2 games up in first place. Now you're the 5th seed, and I don't think you get out of the first round of playoffs. And Tone, you said, what's it going to take? Just one more playoff game, and he's gone. Because I don't think they're winning the first round. And if they don't win the first round of playoffs, I don't think he can stay. He's got to at least win at least one round of playoffs.
You can make an argument the collapse started second half of the Super Bowl. The collapse started there. And then that's when we ain't been the same since. We ain't been the same
since. Maybe the doubt started there. By the way, real quick, before we go, Tone, can you show that Hurts thing one more time?
Yeah.
Is that like the Jalen Hurts mini-me shirt? What is that? What is that? Mini-me?
It's so funny. My dad got me this for my birthday. He got
Is it signed?
For my birthday. It's a little signature right there.
Oh, killer. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah. So it was
it looks like the mini-me jersey. It's all good. I got it.
Hey, listen, I had to find something. You see, I got the Hurt Smitty poster right there behind me. So I'm legitimately locked in on this team like no other, and this is why it hurts so bad. Philly 500. I told Sills, I said, listen, the NFL has found a way to monopolize our lives, and they've created legal cults. What sport do you know was able to tell Jesus to move over on Sunday? So So like we're so locked in on this team. What's going on with them right now was like it's like our dog died.
Yeah.
Excuse me, God. Listen here. Touchdown Jesus took a knee. I gotta go because it's Giants and it's Eagles. I'm sorry. Hey, listen. I'll put it in the basket some other time, but I gotta go. Goodbye.
When I was growing up, this is true. I made sure I go to confession every Saturday and get all my sins forgiven because I was afraid the Eagles would lose if I forgot something. Like that's how bad it was. Like I used to go to confession because I thought if there was anything against me, God may make the Eagles lose. You look at that. You got a satanic voodoo helmet right there with that satanic star.
Hey, I'm out of here, man. Listen, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. 500, as always, it's a pleasure, my
man.
friend. I'm out of here. I'm out of
All
here.
right, Tone.
Yeah.
See you, man.
And he's like Xander. He can't take that BS with that thing, too. By the way, I got to hurry up and get that helmet out of here because for some reason I get Juju sent over from Philly and my connection completely goes haywire.
That's
if
not.
I don't put the cowboy helmet away somewhere.
Yeah, because it's satanic. It's just a satanic store, man.
It's more like a latrine to some. Awesome stuff, my friend. I
Thank
appreciate
you, my
it.
man.
You
Have
got
a
it.
good
Thank
one.
you so much,
All
our
right.
boy Philly 500. Don't forget to go over and watch him live. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button. By the way, our good friends at Hooters, Gary's watching. Love Gary and all the great folks from Hooters. And again, all the locations from Rhode Island all the way down through New Jersey, Delaware, all the way down to King of Prussia. You can go to northeasthooters.com. Great specials. Tuesdays, the wings, buy 10, get 10 free. Happy hours, man. Lunch specials, Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3 p.m. Boneless wings. Happy hours, Monday through Friday, 6 items, $6. Don't forget tomorrow. By the way, we got Ice Cube on tomorrow. That'll be at 4:30. Wing Wednesdays, 1983, the year the place was founded. Again, if you don't want to go into the locations, you can always go to the app, also at hooterstogo.com, northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. And when you roll in, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Don't forget Ice Cube tomorrow at 4:30. The legendary rapper and owner of the Big Three basketball, huge Raider fan, huge NFL fan. Outstanding. Hey, by the way, real quick here. So the owner of the Carolina Panthers thinks it's cool to be a jackass and throw things at fans in the stands in Jacksonville because he can't get his way. And this is the prime example of what I talk about with these owners. Remember something. When you're a billionaire, sharks don't swim with guppies. They eat them. Okay? They're not there to make friends with guppies. They swim to eat guppies. They're going to tell you what you want to hear and do what they want to do. Look at the NFL owners. If that was a player throwing things into the stands, or if that was a player that went after a fan, he'd be automatically suspended. Organization. Just shows you, if you don't have proper management at the top, people with patience, poise, and pride, you can't win. It really doesn't matter what the product is. Here, I'll give you a great example. Warren Buffett used to come on my program all the time during the NCAA tournament. He'll be back on again. And he has this really great event that he has with the Final Four and with the tournament, the NCAA tournament, March Madness, for all of his people in his company to play and make a lot of money doing it. And you know what I asked him? I asked him one time when he was on the show, I go, hey, man, so when you invest in a company, he goes, no. I don't invest in companies. I go, what do you mean? You don't? He goes, the widget's not the thing. I invest in people who are not able to have the resources they need to push the widget where they need to push the widget. You never invest in the horse. You invest in the jockey, because the horse takes you around the track. The jockey takes you to the finish line. And I always thought that was important, especially when it applies to a sports team. That applies to a sports team. You can have all the talented players on your roster, but if you don't have the proper leader like a Mike Tomlin or like a Tony Dungy or someone of that ilk who has autonomy in the building, the great owners will do this. It's your ship, dude. I'm not going to help you sink the ship by being involved in your decision-making. I want to know what you're doing because it's my company. But I'm going to let you. That's what made Jimmy Johnson the best coach on the planet. Jimmy never coached on game day. He never coached on game day. You know when he did his coaching? Monday through Saturday, talking to his coaches on Monday, getting his players ready on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's when he did his business. He didn't give Newt Rockne speeches. You worked your ass off. And the coaches were accountable because all those coaches were his guys. Trust, respect, belief. You can't win Super Bowls from a front office. And I'll say it one more time to you. It's becoming even more evident now that Doug Pederson was completely responsible for the 17 Super Bowl championship. Completely responsible. If you have Nick Sirianni, here, let me ask you guys this question. Guys, if Nick Sirianni's the head football coach of the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles, does he win the Super Bowl? Does he win the Super Bowl? Toad's like, hell no. You're damn right. It's becoming a broken record. Because it's the same bullshit every week with this guy. Boss lies to you every week. The players have lost faith in the guy. How do you go from a 10-2 team to not believing? Keep putting me in a bad position to win. I'll show you how to quit. It makes it easier to quit when your boss puts you in a shitty position to succeed week in and week out. It becomes nauseating. Whatever, guys. And Nick, get this. 6 years ago, that's Doug. 6 minutes ago, this guy took a team to the Super Bowl. Now his ass is on the hot seat. And the point being, you fire a coach who won you a Super Bowl. And now you got a coach who lost you a Super Bowl. What's his equity? Nothing. I don't believe liars. I just don't believe liars. You know, I've never heard I've never heard Nick say one disparaging word towards a player. Why is that? Because it would be a reflection of ripping Howie. Because those are his guys. Remember, everyone's his guy. That's why no one rips no one. That's why A.J. Brown is mute. A.J. Brown's mute because he has to be. There's a gag order. When you rip one, you rip that guy. And when you rip that guy, you're on the Doug Pederson Greyhound. Because then he runs to his boy. Tone's right. 30 years, you're the owner of the Eagles, one Super Bowl, with all the talent that you've had in the NFC East. You double the amount of wins of all teams combined in playoffs. And the reason and the most important thing for you is to have power, than the Lombardi Trophy. I asked a question earlier. I'll ask you this. Who have you been more disappointed with in the last 6 years? Carson Wentz's failure? Or what you're finding out about your golden boy, Nick Sirianni? Who you been more disappointed in? I'm beginning. Hate, I'm a fan of this team. No. Don't do that. Don't do that, Big Marshall. You can be a fan. You can hate this season. Don't hate the team. Hate this season. I would never hate my team for life. I would hate this year. Okay? Don't hate the team. It's counterproductive because I don't want you to hate it. I want you to despise that you were this close to winning an opportunity to get back to Las Vegas in a Super Bowl and be in that game. And instead, you self-imploded. Many companies self-implode. Ego. Here. You want to see the greatest examples of the greatest teams of all time? How about this? Do you really want to see two of the greatest organizations that self-imploded on themselves? Here, Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson. Okay, Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. How many Super Bowls do you think they left on the table? 4 more? This will be a never-ending story? Maybe. You think Jerry and Jimmy left 4 Super Bowls on the table? How about this one? You know, I always go back, and one of the greatest teams of all time, that Jordan Bulls team that won those championships and those 6 titles in 8 years. Okay? Do you not agree That ego broke that up too. Remember something. The Bulls were never beaten on the court. That Bulls Jordan team was taken apart because of ego of Krause and Reinsdorf and Jordan and Jackson. They were never beaten. That thing fell apart because they went apart. Everyone wanted their piece of history. It ripped that thing apart. That's ego. How many championships do you think Jordan and the Bulls left on the table? 2 more? That's why I give the Patriots a lot of love for how they kept that thing together, because you know what you had? Bob Kraft is such a great owner. He is a fabulous pro football owner. He only gets in the way or gets in the middle when needed. He's not in the middle just to be in the middle. You got to remember something. Before Belichick even showed up, he did take a team to the Super Bowl with Parcells. They got beat by the Packers. But he did turn that thing around by taking the team over from Victor Kayem. Laurie picked Howie over Doug. Laurie needs to fix it. Correct. But he won't. He wants his kid to run the team. Actually, I would be surprised if the heir apparent to Howie Roseman is Jeffrey Lurie's kid. They're grooming him for that. He's going to be the next general manager. Like Stephen Jones. Stephen's actually doing a pretty decent job. He talked him off the ledge on taking Johnny Manziel. Okay? Oh, and you guys have a game this weekend. The game's irrelevant because you're battling yourselves now. Your opponent's not the issue anymore, especially when you're talking shitty teams like the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Giants. That's irrelevant now. It's irrelevant. You're fighting yourselves. You're not. The Giants are the lesser of the opponent from within. I want to show you how the national media now looks at you. It's quite pathetic. This is how Fox has you now. You know, Fox doesn't even have you as a top 10 team. Here, this ain't me talking. This is Fox. Ravens 1. 49ers 2. Bills 3. Lions 4. Cowboys 5. Rams 6. Shit, you've beaten half these teams. Where are you? Browns 7. Where are the Eagles? Chiefs 8. Beat them. Texans 9. Dolphins 10. Where are the Eagles? How many of these teams have you beaten? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half of Fox Sports' top 10 NFL teams heading into week 18. You've beaten, and you ain't on it. What? Here. Shit, I gave you more respect. I got the Rams 10. I got the Chiefs 9. I got the Dolphins 8. I got the Browns 7. I got the Eagles 6. I got the Lions 5, the Cowboys 4, the Bills 3, the Niners 2, and the Ravens 1. Shit. I think I'm giving the Eagles too much respect here. I'm the only guy that's giving you respect. Everyone around the country thinks you're a joke. And get this. You know what? They're going like this. They're talking about, can you win a game? Not the game. The Bills are going to win this weekend, be the 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. Okay? My Super Bowl picks are looking awful good now. Cowboys and Bills. How you doing? Remember all you idiots at the beginning of the year were saying, hey, you want to take that back? No. Hey, you want to take the Jordan Davis comment back? No. Let it play out. How about all you doofuses talking about Jordan Davis? You got to put out an MIA or a missing persons or a milk carton to find out where he's been the last 5 weeks. You might want to send an SOS out or some smoke signals. Call the Novacare Center. Have you seen this guy? How about an Amber Alert, a Silver Alert, something, a player alert, anything? Have you seen this guy? He still think you owe Jordan Davis an apology? No. No. He's a first and second down D tackle. Exactly who I said he was. I told you who N'Kobe Dean was. Exactly who he was. That defense, you completely did not replace it. You can't draft corners. You can't draft edge rushers. You barely can draft wide receivers. You got 1 in 20 years. And the coaches you're picking, I mean, Nick Sirianni's more like Chip Kelly than Doug Pederson. Oh, you guys must have hated Doug at first. Doug's not conventional, backup quarterback. Andy Reid guy. Then again, you guys hated Andy Reid. Andy who? Go back and look at the headlines in the Inquirer. Andy who? They are doing the same thing to Jalen Hurts right now in his player development they did to Carson Wentz by putting ineptness around him. If I have a business or I have a player and I give somebody $50 million, I'm not putting somebody with training wheels as a coordinator around my $50 million quarterback. I do exactly what Baltimore did. I hire a quality coordinator. And guess what a quality coordinator did for Lamar Jackson? He's going to win his second MVP award by the age of 26. That's organizationally getting it right and doing it right. That's why the Ravens are superior to you. Yeah, you heard it. The Baltimore Ravens as an organization are superior to you. Superior. Death Row, thank you very much. Yes, tomorrow's my birthday. Okay. Oh, God. Via WIP, Bellotta spoke on Brown and said that Brown scheduled a team outing in escape room before Sunday's loss to Arizona. WIP Mulata spoke on A.J. Brown and said that Brown scheduled a team outing at an escape room before Sunday's loss to Arizona. Brown is doing everything possible to keep the team together. I owe A.J. Brown an apology. I owe A.J. Brown an apology. Wow. A.J. Brown is calling the coaches out and the organization out. He's got more leadership than Jalen Hurts right now. That's scary. Jalen Hurts should be doing this. Okay? Jalen Hurts should be doing this. Man. Come on, Jalen. Show some backbone. And I love the kid. But you got dude, I guess, by the way, I guess when you make $50 million and you're the highest paid guy in the team, ruffling feathers is not something that's in the DNA of people, because I really don't hear a lot of quarterbacks around the league holding out or barking or talking shit to people. Because they get their money. They're the highest paid guys. They're the biggest movie stars in America on TV, because the NFL gets the highest ratings. And you never hear these guys complaining. There's a part of me that doesn't blame them. The only way you win a escape room is if everyone in the room with you is on the same page together. It's very clever team activity. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's called leadership. I owe A.J. Brown an apology. Yes, sir. He's throwing shade at the coaches and the coaches' bosses. He's completely throwing shade on them. Completely. I have less faith now that Nick Sirianni survives this. You got players wanting to escape the bullshit at the NovaCare Center. How did that change in a month and a half? Oh, you guys in here kissing up to Nick, walking around on your knees to Nick. How'd that change? Because you expose frauds. You expose it. Whew, man. I just don't get it. Yeah, I just don't get it. All right. I'm going to take a look at the upcoming Week 18. Let's take a timeout. Keep it International Football Show. Let's take a timeout, Tone.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
It's National Football Show. Yes, sir, boy. Oh, man. I don't know if I have ever seen, let me see. Can you guys think of colossal collapses by organizations? Can you think, let me see. Think of organizations that have collapsed in front of your eyes. Hey, Philly, hey, 007. Oh, no, I had a coughing spell. It's all good. Thank you, brother. Hey, Brian, thank you very much. Get this, Brian. I take no solace in that, though. Okay? Okay, I take no solace in the beginning when all you guys kept, see here. And you know what? I'm not going to, hey, Brian, I'm not going to tell you you guys were wrong when you're 10-1. Normal people that are watching things like that would think everything is okay. You're not wrong. What it is, though, it sends false messages on who NFL teams are. Here's a great example. Okay? Here's a great example. You know who people have the third best team in the NFL is right now? Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are 10-6. Their record doesn't matter. They're playing the best football right now of the season. And they look like the team everyone thought. As a matter of fact, they're the second best team in the AFC right now. I think we'd all agree to that. But they're 10-6. Wait a minute. You can't go by the record. It's fool's gold. And most of you buy into it. You go like the year, and I told you this the other day, the year that the Patriots were undefeated, they got beat by a 10-6 Giant or 9-7, 10-6 Giants team. You think AJ gets Dougie Pete Eatsills? Sure. Howie can't have that. He can't have that. Do you know what they'll start doing? The PR department with the Eagles? They'll start a propaganda attack on him like they did Wentz and Pederson and anybody else they want to get rid of. But that's an NFL standard operating procedure. Every NFL team does that because they got to get rid of you some way. They just can't get rid of you because look at his numbers. It's impossible. What are you going to get? It's like the TO thing. Donovan McNabb should have been the middleman in calming that thing down with Terrell Owens. Well, the organization sided with McNabb, who was the non-Hall of Fame player, who should have calmed that thing down, and he couldn't. Jalen Hurts is not letting T.O. get out of hand. In my opinion, Jalen Hurts would have handled Terrell Owens in a much professional way than what Donovan, no leader McNabb did. Would have totally handled it. Jalen's not going to let that go sideways. McNabb will. Like he talks shit to Deshaun Jackson because that's who he is. That's how he handles himself. Like most people, Donovan McNabb was a weak leader. I mean, I would make this point to you. Donovan McNabb was as poor a leader as Carson Wentz with better talent. That's how I see McNabb. He just was better talent than Wentz. Same shitty leadership. He's just better than Carson. I mean, look at right here. Here's my top 10 quarterbacks going into the final week of the season. I got a tie at 10. I got Joe Flacco. What? And CJ Stroud tied for 10th. I've never had anybody on my Big Sills list for quarterbacks tied at anything. And both those guys I got them at 10. This Puka Nacua push, because he plays in LA to be the rookie of the year, is atrocious. Stroud's sensational. It's a much valued position than a wide receiver position. I don't care about Puka Nacua for the Rams. Stroud's the guy. He's the offensive rookie of the year, hands down. I got Jalen Hurts 9th. Jalen Hurts. Coaches helped him with all those turnovers. All those turnovers. Here, how could Jalen be higher on this list when last year he was more effective? The Eagles had a 9th rated passing offense last year. Now they're 16th. And he'll have more numbers this year. More touchdowns, more yards passing, more completions, more attempts. Completion percentage is right around the same. How could you have a worse passing game than you did a year ago with less attempts? Because you know why? Your attempts a year ago were more impactful. Think about that. Last year, you were 9th. This year, you're not even a top 15 passing team. And you got 2,000-yard receivers, 1,000-yard back. Okay? And you're worse. And the only reason Hurts is going to get the 4K, well, he has to get 197 yards against the Giants. Be interesting to see if they keep him in just to get him the $4,000. Be very interesting. He still needs 197. I wonder if there's a playing incentive for that. Because if there is, how you yank him? Interesting to see how they do that. If the game is out of hand, do you keep him in? Risk him getting hurt so he can get his $4,000? You know, Jalen Hurts has never thrown for 25 touchdowns at any time in his season yet. Interesting. I got Stafford at 8. What a turnaround for Sean McVay. It was great to hear Sean McVay's coming back next year. What a great coach. Best coach in the NFC. Hands down. The absolute best play calling coach in the NFC. 2 NFC titles, a Super Bowl championship, and he's still the youngest head coach in the National Football League, which is insane at 37. It's insane. He's been in the league as long as he's been in the league, and he's got 2 conference titles and a Super Bowl title, and he's 37. This guy's old as Brandon Graham. Think about that. He's as old as Brandon Graham. Mahomes at 7. Got to have him in there. He's the only thing that keeps the Chiefs' opportunity afloat for winning a Super Bowl. Jared Goff has had a spectacular year. 32 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, a division title. Going to get a home field game in the opening round of the playoffs, maybe 2. Should have beat the Cowboys. Heck of a year. Jared Goff has done more in Detroit than Matthew Stafford ever did in Detroit. How incredible is that? Number 5, Dak Prescott. Kudos to Mike McCarthy. What a great play calling year. He absolutely has turned out to be the second best passing quarterback in the NFC this year. No question about it. Completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, completions. Not the turnovers that the turnover machine in Philly has. That's the second best quarterback in the NFC. Tua, Miami. Like I told you what I think of Miami. Miami is like a fake Prada watch or a fake Prada handbag for women. You know, it looks like it. It ain't it, though. You can't get destroyed by good teams every time you play them. Seriously, the Miami Dolphins are a fake Rolex. Hey, you see the Rolex? How come the thing ticks? Dude, Rolexes don't tick. Rolex watches don't tick. How come this thing ticks? It's not made in Switzerland. It's made in Switzerland. Switzerland. Oh, okay. Number 3, Josh Allen. Woo! Has this guy rolled on, man? That's my quarterback. The quarterback maybe take my prediction, my Bills to the Super Bowl this year. Man, does he look great. What a talent. Josh Allen, what an absolute talent. Number 2, Brock Purdy. He's thrown the least attempts. Think about this. Brock Purdy has thrown the least attempts of any top 10 quarterback. And he's second in yards. Shit. If he didn't have that poor game against the Ravens, you might be talking about him as the MVP. But personally, it's going to go to Lamar Jackson. When you look at numbers, this is what Tone and I talk about all the time. When you look at Lamar and you look at the numbers, you go like this. When you watch a football game, you go, wow, that's impactful. What you see on film and when you watch Lamar play, isn't it funny? You can't see it on paper. But when you watch him in a game, you're like this. Holy shit, that guy's great. Holy shit, that guy's great. I mean, 26 years old. He's going to win his second most valuable player. I mean, you're starting to float in the area where at 26, he's like a Hall of Fame guy. 70% win percentage. This guy's got a higher win percentage than Jalen Hurts. This will be the second 14-win season that he has. I mean, if John Harbaugh, hey, that just goes to what a game called by Jim Harbaugh last night. The Harbaughs own pro football and college football right now. If you want a sure thing, you hire one of those guys. I said it the other day. Those two guys may have a college national title and a Super Bowl championship in the same calendar year. That is absolutely insane. Absolutely, utterly insane. Tomorrow, Ice Cube will join us. 4:30, we'll talk some sports with our dear friend. We look forward to having him on. Xander, Big Joe, we thank you very much. Please hit the like button, guys. Thank you to Philly 500 and my good friend Tone for coming aboard with us here. Thank you so much, Tone. You killed it as usual. I thank you so much. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we shall see you on the flip side.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.